here right now is Mr. Anthony Strait. Good evening.
Hey, welcome to the On the Sports Line bunch. I'm kidding. No, it's great to be doing a very unique virtual show in real time. I think it's the first time we're doing this. I mean, this is a landmark occasion.
It is indeed.
Kind of exciting. And below me is a guy that you have seen if you've watched this show on many occasions as our Giants expert during training camp shows, during some NFL draft shows. But tonight we have him on the old 2 hours. He'll talk a lot about the Giants and probably make fun of the Jets a little bit. He does his best. It's Mr. Joe Tufaro. Good evening, sir.
How are you? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate being invited to this great occasion. I know you guys don't do it like this normally, but I appreciate it. So it's great.
Pleasure to have you, sir.
Thank you.
He's also got the best setup and has the most colorful wall out of any of us. All of us have white screens, although props to Anthony with the hats in the background. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
So tonight, what are you going to see in these next 2 hours? We're going to take a look at the top 3 picks. We're going to look at who the Giants and Jets pick with their first pick, and then who should they pick in the rest of the draft, especially in round 2. We're going to talk about the Dolphins picking at number 5. We might have somebody who is going to call in and mention a little bit something about that. We'll take a look back at the top 10, and we're going to take a look at the real stars of every draft, the quarterbacks. Why do we talk about anybody else? The quarterbacks get 95% of the love. We've talked about Joe Burrow's hands and Tua's ankle.
95% of the salary cap.
Mostly 95% of the salary cap, but mostly we've talked about Joe Burrow's hands and Tua Tagovailoa's ankle for quite some time.
And his hip.
His hip. I'm sorry, but I mean, it's still all relative to me. I'm sick of hearing about it. It's time to talk about the draft picks. Guys, first thought is we start the most unique draft of our lifetime. But before we do that, Jay, let's all boo Roger Goodell in unison since he can't be with it right now. 1, 2, 3. Boo!
Okay, I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was an article that actually got posted on online somewhere that DraftKings, I think, is doing a partnership with one of the beer companies. It might be Bud Light, where you can actually download an app to actually boo Roger Goodell.
I think they're going to donate $1 for each one they get, so that'll be good.
Oh, that's the one. Yep.
Up to 500,000, which they'll probably get by the third pick. So
probably.
I'm just kind of interested to see how this all comes about. They did a virtual WNBA draft last week, but we haven't really seen too many sporting events and have dealt with this. Considering the numbers The Last Dance got on Sunday, that ESPN Bulls special, this is going to get buku ratings, so you can't screw this up, technology. And just seeing a bunch of old NFL executives trying to work all of these little 21st century video modules, seeing Jerry Jones getting to be in his own room tonight, it's exciting. There's so many things that could go wrong, and I'm excited that we're going to get to comment on these in the next 2 hours.
Well, look, to be fair, the NFL did get smart. There are landlines that can connect each team has more than one person who can be designated to call the pick into Goodell. Right. So they're trying their best to cover all potential bases. Should, 21st century technology break, they'll go back to 20th century technology.
And it could be a lot worse. We could have been dealing with dial-up right now. Can you imagine, being on a 10-minute timer and having to log into AOL? Using dial-up, it takes a good 5 minutes.
I never heard of this thing. Landline? Are there phones? I just know of my cell phone right over here, and that gets text messages.
Joseph, we're surrounded by some millennials.
Yeah, I know. I like it. This is how it should be all the time. They should go back to those horrible pictures of Pete Rozelle standing there in the ballroom.
Oh, wow.
And with no fans, with no fanfare, with one camera, and looking around going, is this the pick? How do you say this guy's name? And that's it. We should go back to that.
Watching all of I watched on ESPN Monday, they had the 1989 NFL draft, and just seeing how it was originally in a grand ballroom in New York. And all of a sudden, just just the most boring amount of entertainment that you could possibly imagine.
It was horrible.
Even become now is incredible.
Hey, look, I remember 6 years ago, I was actually at Radio City Music Hall the last time the draft was in New York for the second and third rounds of the draft. And it was just such a huge spectacle. How it's amazing how the draft itself has become a grand event.
Yeah.
For the National Football League. It's like obviously different circumstances this year, but it doesn't take away from the fact that these kids being drafted, I can't call them kids, I call them young men that are being drafted tonight are getting ready to live a lifelong dream. They worked so hard for this, and no, they're not going to be able to get the hug and the handshake from Roger Goodell, but you know what? Yeah, or hang up the jersey. You know what? The teams are going to call them. They're going to be officially a member of the NFL fraternity, and that's going to be that's going to be a tremendous experience, especially considering what we're dealing with in the world nowadays.
Yeah, and the thing is like the ones that they expect to get picked early, they've essentially been given the equipment that kind of puts them in a virtual green room where they have a camera set up and a phone set up, so that when they are picked and they know where they're going, the media, the television crews, ESPN, NFL Network, whoever, will be able to automatically, have the guys in the production room will switch the camera shot to that player in his house, and you'll be able to get that same type of interview. I mean, obviously a little different way, but you're still going to get that interview of, hey, what are you feeling right now? The usual.
Yeah, you'll get the initial reaction, which will be good. Yeah, they did a really good job to do that, I thought, to send out all the equipment to make sure everybody's got the same level of equipment and it's all hooked up and they're all ready to go. And that they tested all this on Monday. I guess they did a 2-round draft with a bunch of phony names and just to make sure that it all worked out. And so I'm pretty sure they're prepared for this.
Yeah, 58 rookies. 58 college athletes has been invited to tonight's virtual NFL draft, and you just think about what the league have gone out of their way to send them all the necessary equipment, anything like from laptops to lighting to just anything they needed to kind of be TV ready when the time comes that they're drafted, and that they could be available for comments right away.
We should also point out we're not pulling a Joe Biden here, but all of our TVs are off to the side, so we're not ignoring who.
Mine's not. Mine is literally right in front of me.
Yeah. For those of you who are watching on Facebook, if you see us turning to the side, don't worry. We're not ignoring anybody. Our TVs are kind of set up differently. Jay has his right in front of his, but I have mine to my my left. To your right, if you're facing me, and Joe as well, and I'm sure Rabbi as well, that we're not ignoring you. We're just turning to the side to see what's going on the TV screen. So bear with us. This is new for everyone.
Yep. I mean, for those of you who've been following the show for years, you know that we're usually on. I mean, we are live on draft night, but we are, as Rabbi said, in a studio. Yeah, Rabbi, I think we've almost forgotten what that studio looked like.
What does it look like? Are there chairs? Where is it? Is it somewhere in Queens?
Cameras. I vaguely recall a table of some kind. I think Anthony would decorate it. And we were on the air 1 hour after the draft got started. So we would basically be weighing in on, when we would do our top 5, 1, 2, 3, or top 5, however it worked out. We already knew who got picked. So it was real easy for us then come in with our comments and our analysis, whether we thought the pick was right or wrong. In some cases we kind of hedged our bets a little bit, but we had the luxury of waiting an hour to see what was happening. And of late, the Jets and Giants, for the most part, had already either had made their picks before we went on, or we knew they were going to make their picks while we were on. So a lot of what we were doing was, some of it was in real time, but a lot of it was not. So this is the kind of show the Rabbi has been wanting to do for years, because every year we do this, he goes, man, I wish we could do it the way we're doing it now.
Well, the funny thing is,
we used to.
the funny thing is, with all of the sports that have been canceled all across the country, one of the things I'm glad to see is this still going on, but not because we need it, but because of all of the NFL executives that were kind of, and I'm going to kind of bring this up throughout the night, that were kind of railing against this. There was a movement to move this back because of the fact that NFL executives and NFL scouts, who I know honestly, if they get any of these picks wrong, they lose their jobs. They want to kind of just see this one way. They want to see this in a way where they want every little thing to be exactly as it's planned. They want pro days. They want to meet someone in person 25 times. And I think it's kind of refreshing that this curveball has been kind of thrown in for executives. It's not great for the country, but having to see them trying to mince ways. You have enough game tape. You've seen people give you tapes on virtual workouts, but you've seen enough of, get this, they've played in college and there's actual pro footage of them playing. It's amazing, and that's something that is a little more refreshing tonight. And I'm kind of curious to see if, like, players, and we'll mention him a lot tonight, like Tua Tagovailoa, if this hurts him or helps him in the future, because a lot of people have given his hip a clean bill of health, and all of a sudden people are like, well, is he okay? I don't know, but what else can you do?
No, I mean, and Rabbi, how often, like during the course of the last few draft shows that we've done, where I've raged against somebody who was picked what I felt was a reach because people paid too much attention to what he did at the combine or did at his pro day, and they were drafting measurables instead of drafting a football player. Watch the film, draft a football player, and that's why I think a lot of people didn't pay as much attention to Daniel Jones, Joe, as you and I talked, because what didn't they do? They took the hot take from everyone else who didn't do what you and I did, which is watch film.
Right, and watch actual games, because they were on it, on the West Coast. He was on it nice and early in the morning. There's always a Duke game on because they play early in the day. They don't play later on Saturday nights in the big time zone. So they played early on Saturdays and be able to watch them, and watched a lot of his games. And that was the whole thing. You weren't going over what people were expecting him to do. You were going over what you actually saw him do on the field. And Gettleman said it the other day. He said, this is old school for us, that you're watching what they did between the lines. Forget about all this other stuff and how big his hands are and all this stuff. You can tell if a guy can catch a football by watching him catch a football.
And you can tell if a guy can throw the football by watching him throw the football. I mean, look, we know that, and since more and more the NFL is becoming a passing league in more resembling college football than it has, Joe, at any time in our past, you can see certain things that are translatable. I mean, there are a lot of guys who, they're basing it way too much on maybe what they did or did not see at the Senior Bowl. But I mean, watch the film. You've got at least 3 years of these guys, especially the ones who have started from jump, and the ones who haven't. You should have at least 2 years of film to look at. I mean, look, we all know that some of these guys who, are not. Do you judge it against the level of their competition? Sure, to a certain extent, yes. Does that give a slight edge to SEC players or maybe Big Ten players? Sure, but that doesn't, to me, negate if a guy can play. A guy can play, and I think you can extrapolate to a certain extent about what skills are translatable and what skills will need some work based on the position he played, the teams he went up against, and the draft's a crapshoot even if you have all the knowledge in the world.
But if you remember a couple of years ago, we talked about Khalil Mack and the fact that he was from Buffalo, and everybody's like, well, there's no competition. How do you make this guy one of the top picks in the draft? And he certainly lived up to it. So sometimes, like you said, you have to make that a little bit of a note on yourself of who he went up against. But if he was still twice as fast as everybody on the field, he's still twice as fast. And, it makes a big difference to, again, watch guys do it and see what they can do.
Yeah, he also mentioned that a lot of pro teams are running a lot of college formations these days. So you're getting an idea of what a quarterback can run and what kind of offense that they can fit in. Like I remember last year when the Giants drafted Daniel Jones, I was one of the people on the show that said I felt like the Giants got a steal because a lot of people were reacting to the fact that he was from Duke, and not the greatest competition. They were looking at Dwayne Haskins, who was from Ohio State. I was like, looking at the talent that Haskins was surrounded with at Ohio State, as opposed to Daniel Jones, who was asked to do more or less. And he was coming into a Giants team where he was going to be the heir apparent to Eli Manning, but he was going to be asked to do the exact same thing. Yeah. And when you come down to it, when you look at the two quarterbacks, when they played, Haskins had a hard time picking up defenses really early. Yeah. Whereas Jones, you know right away that he was able to read defenses. He can adjust. The only thing he had to cut down on was the turnovers and hold on to the football and raise his pocket awareness. But those were things that can be worked on with time. And I felt like Jones was more ready to be a starter right away out of the two quarterbacks. And I know a lot of people was hitting me up on social media asking me disagreeing, but I basically stood firm, and I really do feel like the Giants had their franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, look, you guys have to remember this, and I think there's a lot of fans, who read all of the the amount of content and, anonymous scouts and personnel people who put their opinions out there. Guys who are on people who are evaluating these players for their team's draft board are saying the positive or the negative based on whether or not they feel this particular guy would fit with their scheme, and they may not. So their low rating of the player may be probably to a certain extent based on that, whether the skills that they see will translate not just to the NFL overall, but to their team specifically.
Hey, look, check it out. The booth charity is on it. Michael Strahan's in on it too. Look at the top right corner.
Yes. The if you are watching the draft, and I hate going like this to real time, but Joe, Roger Goodell was just talking, and they just showed a video of people booing him in the background.
I'm way ahead of you for some reason.
Yeah, I saw it when you did too, because I noticed when you were laughing there too, Joe. But yeah, it's kind of refreshing to see this virtual picking. However, he finally announced, he hasn't officially announced the first pick of the draft, but pretty much everybody knows who it's going to be. So let's start this analysis off. The Bengals are going to invest their future at quarterback, and they are going to take LSU's Joe Burrow at number 1. Why Joe Burrow, you ask? Because I'm a homer. No, wait, I'm sorry. I've seen him play for LSU all of 2019, and he was spectacular. If you don't know the numbers of who is going to be the second person ever to win a Heisman Trophy, win a national title, and get picked first overall, Cam Newton was the only other person to do it. Here is the stats. 60 touchdowns in 2019, an FBS record. Again, 60 touchdowns. Of course, Joe, the person who he beat for that record, is now the Giants' backup in Mr. Colt McCoy, by the way. Although that might have been Colt Brennan, not 100% sure. Doesn't matter anyway. Joe Burrow, it might have been Colt Brennan, not a big deal. Joe Burrow was in the national spotlight pretty much this entire season after his primetime win at Texas, which is probably why I had Colt McCoy on the brain in week 2, and then he went into the stratosphere. Other quarterbacks that we're going to talk about in this draft, that being Tua, Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, they had semi-below average or worse 2019 stats from 2018. Burrow obviously wasn't under the radar at that point because he wasn't running the same kind of offense. They depended a lot on the run. This year, they depended a lot more on RPO. And once that happened, Burrow was not average in every game. He was sensational. He probably had what would be statistically the best single season from a pure QB in college history. Tim Tebow is not a pure QB to me. He's just a wonder and everything else. So now let's talk about who he's going to. He's going to the Cincinnati Bengals. A lot of people were asking him in the offseason, why do you want to go to that dumpster fire? It's not really as much of a dumpster fire, in my opinion, because of what Andy Dalton and Marvin Lewis did. I know Lewis isn't there anymore, and Zach Taylor's head coach. But because of that, there's a winning culture in Cincinnati, semi-winning culture. It's not completely there at the moment, but I think Andy Dalton being a possible backup, which he said he's okay to do it, doing. He may not be there once we get to the regular season. But he's had experience in the lockout-shortened season. The season after Super Bowl 45, he started his first season, so he knows how a limited training camp will be. This is a good foundation for Burrow. If Burrow doesn't seem like he's too ready to go, maybe Dalton starts a few games or two during the season. If Burrow seems like he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, guess what? You get 90 cents to the dollar on Andy Dalton, get rid of him, and it's all Burrow. It's Burrow's keys to the truck. And again, Burrow's from Ohio. What's better than a hometown boy making good right now? Don't know if that pick is official yet, but it looks like it's going to be official.
No, not yet. Yeah,
momentarily. Guys, thoughts on Mr. Burrow at number 1, most likely?
I mean, it's funny, Rabbi, you talk about his 60 touchdown passes. The thing that jumps out at me even more is the 76.3% completion percentage and the only six interceptions in 527 attempts. If you want a comparison in his own career, the year before he had 5 interceptions, but in only 379 attempts. Look, we all know that the kid can make all the throws. I mean, downfield accuracy, natural touch, ball placement. He identifies man or zone. He understands how to use his eyes to hold defenders, create passing windows. The kid never gets rattled. He locates pressure. He adjusts on the move. He doesn't seem to have any issue whether, he has to throw in the pocket or throw off script. Enough of his legs to get a move around the pocket. I mean, he has everything you're kind of looking for. Look, is any quarterback perfect in terms of what they come into the league? No. I mean, look, is he going to have to improve working the ball to either sideline? Sure. Is he a power fastball thrower like, let's say a Cam Newton? Does he have, is his fastball maybe 95 instead of 105? Sure. But these are things that actually can probably be worked on. You got to remember, he was only a 2-year starter. And as you said, Rabbi, only his last year was in anything that even remotely resembled an NFL offense. Though having that 1 year essentially running the Saints offense, I think gives him a leg up on every single one of these quarterbacks who is coming into the league behind him. So, I think he's going to come in. When you come in automatically with poise, with the ability to process an offense and see what, and the field in front of you and make smart decisions. I mean, look, I think he's worthy of the number 1 pick. He's going to be an immediate NFL starter. Is he going to take the Bengals to the playoffs in the first year? I may not go that far, but I do think there's multiple Pro Bowls in this guy's future.
Oh, without question, I agree. I mean, you look at the 60 touchdown stands out to me, obviously, but you think about this guy he is a big game pressure cooker performer. You think about, yes, the college football playoff, but remember the game down in Tuscaloosa in Alabama and that shootout, and how when the Tigers needed a score because Alabama would not go away, he would lead the team downfield to score and eventually ice the game. Look, Burrow's competitive spirit and fire reminds me of Philip Rivers. Mm-hmm. Who, another guy, he's not a 100-mile-per-hour fastball thrower, but you know what? 90 to 95 can win you a lot of Cy Youngs in baseball. Yeah. And, that could give you a lot of Pro Bowls also. Look, I'm watching some old school baseball, and Greg Maddux pretty much dyed the eyes every chance he got. That's all you need from Burrow. If he can make the passes, absolutely. We've seen that. He's going to a Cincinnati team that it's his. The keys is his right now. It's his kingdom. There's no pressure to win right now. It's going to a 2-14 team. But then you look at the Bengals. It's not like they've been a complete dumpster fire over the last few decades. I mean, they have made the playoffs. They've won divisions. They just haven't gotten over the hump and winning that one playoff game. You got to go back to 1990, the last time we actually won a playoff game, which is a very long time. But when Burrow, when he starts in Cincinnati, it's on him. And of all the quarterbacks, he's the most ready without question.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Joe, I know you were probably just looking at Burrow's Heisman speech from 2019, and that just shows how great of a leader he is. And that's something that the Bengals really need right now in the quarterback position. Something I don't know if you're going to see out of any of the other QBs to have this much leadership in this draft.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that that the leadership abilities there, and the only thing we got to say about Cincinnati, you're talking about how bad it's been, getting rid of Marvin Lewis and the Vontaze Burficts and trying to make all those guys the leader of the team is what you needed to get away from. Now you got this kid to bring you into the future. So I think it's a perfect pick.
Yeah, I mean, and look, guys, as you know, I mean, quarterback has always been the position that I scrutinize the most when we talk. All right, Rabbi, it's official. The pick is in, so I'm going to hold so that you can revel in the official announcement.
Well, I'm reveling in the official announcement. Joe Burrow is now officially the first pick of the draft at 8:25 p.m. Thank you, ESPN, for all of that. But I do have to say, this is such a huge get for Cincinnati, only because of the fact that they haven't been completely awful. And I think just as Andy Dalton hits his slide as a quarterback, he's still got years in him. Now you get a guy who can lead your franchise for 10 to 15 years if everything breaks right. And we've seen it out of all of the number one draft picks that we've seen over the last few years. I know Baker Mayfield, the jury seems to be still out on him, but he has a lot of attitude issues, but he still put the Cleveland Browns into a different stratosphere. And then you got Kyler Murray, who's going to really start getting the ball rolling in Arizona. They're going to become a legitimate team, especially with DeAndre Hopkins. I see the Bengals doing some things in at least the next 5 years. Maybe 2021 is kind of a transition year, but Jay, you're going to see that team. You're going to see Joe Burrow twice a year, and now they have a plan.
Yeah, look, I will tell you guys this: if they can take the next 2 years, because honestly, right now, the Steelers and the Ravens are the top tier, and the Steelers is contingent on Roethlisberger being close to resembling his former self, but he's going to be gone in 2-3 years max. So the Steelers are going to come back to the pack. The Ravens will have Jackson in his prime, and you hope they will have surrounded him with enough weapons and a defense that evokes memories of, the Ravens defenses of old. So they're probably right now ready to stay up at the top of that division for a while. But the Bengals, if they can put enough guys around Burrow in the next 3 years while he develops, if they can somehow manage to get Andy Dalton to stay put and be a mentor, at least for his first year, and, to get a healthy AJ Green, to have Joe Mixon, fully healthy and fully capable and, involved in the offense, they are in position to move up in the pecking order in that division if they draft and develop right over the next 2 years. So it's going to be interesting to watch because right now, I mean, and you're going to have people who are going to disagree with me, I think the Bengals are in a better position right now to make a move up in the pecking order than the Browns are. And I think that goes more to what you said, Rabbi, about the fact that there probably is a better culture and in Cincinnati than there is on the other side of the state in Cleveland.
I thought you were going to say in a better position than the Steelers are, considering the Steelers don't have a plan yet at the quarterback position. Once Ben retires, you have Baker, right. You have Lamar, you now have Burrow, you have two number one draft picks, and a guy who is just the NFL MVP. And now if you're the Steelers, as a Steelers fan, I know I don't want to always tap into your Steelersness here. That's a weird word to say. But how is it feeling that the Steelers this is going to become a lot of a younger division in the next few years?
Yeah, it is. Look, and the Steelers are not an old team, though the offensive line is kind of getting up there. The combined average age of their nominal 5 starters is above 150 years. And that's kind of a point where people start to look at maybe you better start looking to the future to develop players to slide into their slots. The wide receiving core is young. The running back core is young. And the defense is in their prime. And, to remind everybody, the number 18 pick in the NFL draft this year is Minka Fitzpatrick to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So let's not forget about that. The question is, and it's not, I don't think you'll see the Steelers draft a quarterback this year unless somebody that they've been watching really jumps at them later in the draft. It'll be next year where they're really going to have to decide, do we think Mason Rudolph's 1 year of getting experience has put him in a position where they can at least move forward with him as the immediate heir apparent? Or, do they have to start looking back at college and find somebody else? Because there's been a revolving door of guys behind Ben for a lot of years now, and we're at the point now where they're going to have to find someone who can step in and be the starter for the next few years. I don't know if it's Rudolph, but I will tell you this, Rabbi, I am fully expecting the Steelers to be a mediocre 500 type team starting at the point in which Ben does retire.
Well, the Redskins, the pick is in. We still haven't seen the pick yet. We're going to, assume it's going to be one of the most dominant linebackers we've seen out of college in many, many years. A pick so certain that the Redskins can't screw this up. How can the Redskins screw this up?
As long as Dan Snyder is in a different room and does not have access to any type of electronic conveyance where he can take over calling in the pick, I think they'll be fine. You've got,
as long as he's out to dinner somewhere. Yeah.
Possibly.
I don't care if he's out to lunch. I don't care what meal he's out to. Is for Redskins fans, you better hope he's just not anywhere where he can do any damage and screw this up. Rabbi, look, you bring in Ron Rivera, who's a defensive-minded head coach. You've got to believe that Chase Young is going to be the pick. And you look at it this way: he's the most dominant player in this entire draft. And as somebody said, if you think you have your quarterback, and the Redskins seem to believe they're right now, they are going to put their faith in Haskins for a little while longer, at least. I don't think he got fairly judged the way he got thrown off the deep end without a life preserver last season. So we'll see what happens when he knows he's coming in as the nominal, QB1. But they said, if you don't have the quarterback, if you can't pass it, find people who can either rush the passer or defend the pass. And I can't see how this is a no-brainer, unless all of a sudden,
he's on the phone, and I see there's a picture of somebody over there. I don't know who it is. Maybe it's his late father. I'm not 100% sure. But Chase Young pretty much looks to be the pick here at number 2. I love him. I love Chase Young, and I think he is one of the most dominant defensive players that this draft has seen, as I said to you in the pre-show, in 5 to 10 years. He was, I think, outside of Burrow, he had the most dominant season out of anybody in this draft. Burrow had an amazing season, but you can argue that based on pure player talent alone, Chase Young was the best player in college football in 2019.
Yeah,
so I think this is a gimme. This is a Lawrence Taylor-like player that the Redskins are getting. Don't put that on video in 2 years.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. So Bill's going to make it 100% confirmed here in the next two seconds. And there we go. So, and look, and I had this. I said this was the right pick from jump. Again, because Rivera is a defensive coach, and you got to bring in people who can get after the quarterback. And honestly, it comes down to this: as one scout said, the guy can damn do anything he wants. He's up there with the Bosa brothers coming out of the same school, and there are a lot of people, who think he's the next guy up in that legacy. He wins in so many different ways. This is a grown-ass man. He's got a, freaky combination, size, strength, athleticism. His initial quickness is ridiculous. The guy has multiple moves, and he always has a plan in order when he's rushing the passer, keep a blocker off balance. And he always has a plan B, whether it's rip, long arm, bull rush, and he can shed, defenders in any which way he goes. 16.5 sacks in 2019 to finish second all time in school history to Mike Vrabel of all people. You know, I mean, look, does he need to improve a little bit in run defense? Is he guilty occasionally of guessing wrong with his zone read? You know, does he need to become a more disciplined run defender? Sure. But you know what? You can improve on that as you get more reps. You know, did he maybe do a little cruise control? Maybe. But, you know, that happens. But here's the thing. You got a guy who was a 2-year starter at Ohio State, rushed off the left and right edges in a 4-man front. He would occasionally jump inside on passing downs. He's used to having to defeat multiple blockers. He's managed to stay productive whether he's getting chipped or whatnot. You know, and here's the thing. You start with an impressive athletic twitch for a guy his size to be able to keep his body in sync and keep his balance mid-rush. You know, I mean, I think he's going to expand his bag of tricks and his ability to read blockers and adjust mid-attack as opposed to just going in with his predetermined move. Look, what you're getting here is a guy who not only has the physical ingredients, size, speed, and strength, the technical know-how, and the ability to diagnose skills as a pass rusher. They are advanced for his age. Look, this is going to be, to borrow another scout's phrase, a freakier version of Bradley Chubb. And as you said, Rabbi, and we all agree on this, he's the best overall player in the 2020 NFL draft. I mean, there's a reason every, you know, big board with the top 100 ever has this guy up at the top. No, this is the best pick in the draft. The Redskins did it right. He's going to start from day one.
You know what? The Washington Redskins have sent a thank you basket to the New York Giants. Remember that Week 16 matchup that the Giants won in overtime? The Giants won the game, but it felt like the Redskins won the battle. They won the war, and they get Chase Young as a result. Look, I think of what rookie came in, defensive lineman that came in and wreaked so much damage this first year. I think of Javon Curls, the freak, when he came in with the Tennessee Titans, 1999, defensive rookie of the year. And he just he absolutely annihilated Rob Johnson and the Buffalo Bills in that AFC wildcard game, the Music City Miracle. We remember how it ended, but he was just an unbelievable specimen. They got Chase Young, 16.5 sacks. He literally did whatever he wanted against Michigan late in the season last year. I have never seen a defensive lineman just dominate physically, whether it was with his speed, whether it was with raw brute strength. It was just unreal. Like I remember rushing home to watch that game. I had my popcorn, the cold TO, had my popcorn ready. I was like, I gotta see what is the fuss about Chase Young. You know what? Yep. Chuck Bednarik Award winner, a unanimous All-American first team, Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, you go on and on. He's going to a Washington Redskins team with Ron Rivera, who is noted for defense. Mm-hmm. Now he has a brand new toy he's gonna just let him go loose. I feel for quarterbacks is gonna have to be dropping back on 3rd and long, and this guy is gonna be coming around the edge, virtually unblockable because you watch that Michigan game. They were trying to chip him, they're trying to double team him, and they just could not slow him down. Nope. When you have a guy with that motor and that God-given talent, look out. I mean, I'm a little worried for the rest of the NFC East because look around that division. A lot of those teams don't really have great offensive lines right now. And look at a guy who could step in and get about 10 or 15 sacks almost immediately. Yep.
And as our Sean Roman just texted me, if the Giants had only won that overtime game, they'd have Chase Young. So all right, Rabbi, pick in for the Lions.
Yep. So Joe, do you have any thoughts on Chase Young before we go over to pick 3?
Yeah, we'll see what he looks like in a couple of years. I don't, again, you keep saying what he does in college, which is fantastic. But to say the guy is completely unblockable because he ran around the guys at Indiana and all those places doesn't translate to the NFL. It didn't translate for most guys to the NFL. So we'll see where it goes. This is a draft pick every year. This whole thing's a crapshoot, and we'll see where it is. So what I am interested in is there's no trades that we thought there was going to be some trade in 3 and 4. It's all we've been hearing about all week. And seems to be nothing because Okuda just went to Detroit. So
yep, as just said, the pick number 3 is where the intrigue of this draft was supposed to start. but they didn't trade down. And another Buckeye went off the board. What many people thought was the consensus number 3 pick, quarterback Jeff Okudah out of Ohio State. Jay, you like all the Buckeyes being picked? I know you do.
You know what? During football season, I'm a Michigan fan, so of course I can't stand any of these guys. But when I'm sitting here on camera doing analysis, you know what? You got to give the program credit. Anthony, this is your pick.
Yes,
take it.
Anthony, which way, do you think this is the right way to go?
You know, it's the right way to go. I mean, I was under the impression for the last few days that the Lions would trade down.
As in everybody.
But you know what? They stuck with the pick. They got the best defensive back in the draft by far. Look, Okudah, when you go a full season and the only penalty you drew was a late hit, that means you are fundamentally sound. That means you are a shutdown corner who can really step in and take care of business. You look at with the Lions right now, we forget they traded Darius Slade during the offseason. So they had a need for corner. They signed Desmond Tufaro to kind of help out in the secondary, but he's not much of a shutdown corner nowadays. I feel like Okudah can step in almost immediately. And when you play in the Big Ten, that helps an awful lot. But he led the nation in pass defending. He's going to be able to step in right away. Help Matt Patricia in that defense that was among the worst secondaries in the NFL last season. It's a great pickup. I mean, there's really not much you can say. You're looking at the film now on ESPN like everyone else. He has great quickness and agility, can make a break on a ball, can definitely really be a guy who can come in and be locked on to number 1 receiver. I like Darrelle Revis. You know, I think of Revis when he stepped in immediately. And even when he wasn't racked up the interceptions, you didn't want to throw to his side of the field. And when you have a guy who can come in and take away an entire side of a football field against a passing attack, you got to go with him. I think it's a great pick for Okudah. The Lions could have went anyway with this. It could have went defensive end as well, maybe like the tackle of the front 4. But to get the best defensive back, I think it was a safe bet. But you know what? It's the best draft pick right now for the Lions.
Yeah, you know, I'd have to agree with that, Anthony. I mean, look, the guy played left corner in a press-heavy scheme, extensive reps on an island in cover 1. So, I mean, you know, you hope that transitions well to the NFL pass defenses. He didn't play zone, though he does have an understanding of it and different types of man and zone schemes. So, you know, is he going to have to learn a little bit more at the NFL level? Sure. But you know what? I mean, the kid comes in with the physical and mental makeup to be a number 1 corner. I mean, is he going to get burned early by some of the best receivers in the NFL? Sure, because he didn't play against the best receivers in college football. You know, not at the same level he's going to be playing in the NFL. Is there going to be a learning curve? Sure, but I think this kid comes in with the initial resume that you need and the skill set that you need to get off on the right foot. We'll see. But you know what? I think it's the right pick.
Yeah, I mean, he was a great press cover guy in a cover 1 scheme. Matt Patricia, you know what? Maybe just allow him to blitz more, to be a little more aggressive in his defensive play calling. But also, he's a great defensive special teamer. He was a gunner, you know, a special teamer, and that should be good as well. I mean, because he can do it both. He can play defense, he can play special teams, run down the field, try to pin a team deep. I mean, a guy with that kind of motor, you want him on your team.
Yep.
Just remember who was on his team that just got picked before him. It's a lot easier to play press corner when you got some guy that's taking down the quarterback in 2 seconds. So let's not make the guy out to be, you know, the next greatest thing. Let's not make him out to be Deion Sanders yet. You know, he's a good, solid guy. He's a good pick. He knows how to play the position for sure. But again, it's a completely different scheme, different team, different competition. And, you know, I think of guys like Eli Apple and all the guys that came out from Ohio State that were all supposed to be, you know, top guys and last forever and be able to step right in and never did it. And, you know, he's a free agent at this point. So I agree with you. It's the right pick at the right time. But you got to remember, again, these guys, what he had on his team on defense also helped him along. So where he's going may not have that same ability to play that same defense.
Before we get to the Giants pick at number 4, and Joe just set off a trigger at me with mentioning that horrible Eli Apple pick. I was screaming tonight because I thought he was a better pick at 20 than he was at 10, Joe. But of course, they needed their quarterback of the future, which turned out to be the worst possible scenario. I appreciated that. I know Joe trying to pour water on all of our Ohio State love tonight, but Urban Meyer has really cultivated an amazing program and has had a lot of pros come out of Florida and a lot of pros come out of Ohio State who's made it on the next level. I think the big thing about playing at Ohio State is you're playing outside of maybe an SEC school or Michigan. You're playing under a huge microscope, and that's what I want to see in a player right now, which is why Clemson and LSU players are going to go, and Ohio State players are going to go off the board and play hotcakes tonight. You want players who have played in pressure situations, and that's why someone like Okudah, who is a big-time cornerback, is the right pick here at 3 for the Lions. There were rumors that they were going to go with the linebacker from Auburn, but I'm kind of glad that they went the safe route. Otherwise, actually
don't get me wrong thinking that I think the pick is wrong. I'm just saying to name the guy Darrelle Revis or Deion Sanders at this point is, can we wait until he gets on the field and to see what else he has around him and how he's going to be used? I agree with you. Even with talking about Chase Young, you talk about a defensive-minded head coach. You could have Bill Walsh coaching that team, and Chase Young's going to be good. So, it's some guys are going to translate no matter what. Some guys are going to need some help and have to be in the right scheme. So,
yeah, and I agree with that. It's rare to have a guy who immediately comes on the field as a rookie and makes, a Pro Bowl level impact from snap one. Certain positions and certain guys, even if you played big-time college football and you played in pressure games, there is still an adjustment to the speed and to the complexity of the NFL game. And having the right skill set coming in gives you just, maybe it gives you a little bit of a leg up, but there's still a huge learning curve, because as much of a shutdown corner as a guy like Okudah was, he wasn't facing the type of intricate passing games he's going to see in the NFL. So the question is, what's his learning curve and getting his skill set up to, to legitimate NFL cornerback position where he is the type of guy who can be a guy who can take away half the field in the NFL the way he did in college.
Yeah.
Hey, look, when you're going to the 29th rate pass defense in the NFL last season, you can only help but be an improvement.
Ours low.
Yeah, but again, that doesn't make him the best guy. So I'm just saying, just because you can improve the worst doesn't make you the best. So
and here it is, Joe.
Here we go.
I get to
Joe
talk.
Judge era.
Well, the coach doesn't make the picks. So.
The coach doesn't make the picks.
Whoa!
Oh, wow. Okay, so as you just see, the Giants, who have had a numerous amount of holes, publicly talked about trading down this pick to get more draft capital. The price wasn't right. They stuck at number 4, and they took Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle out of Georgia. A pick that a lot of people thought would fall to the Jets at 11. Guys, this is a complete shock to a lot of people over here. A lot of people thought Willis would have been the pick at number 4 if it was a tight end. Some people had Wilkes. I thought the pick should have been Isaiah Simmons. We'll get to that in a second. Joe, Gettleman gets his offensive lineman, but not the one we thought.
No, but, I started to hear his name today a little bit more. Saw a couple of different mock drafts. I heard a couple of more. Daniel Jeremiah said it today. He liked Becton. I think Becton hurt himself with having to go into the drug protocol already before draft day even started. So they decided to go with this guy who, again, blocked for one of the leading running backs in college last year, which was a big deal because we all know who we have in the backfield with Saquon Barkley. So that's kind of what they're looking for, is that guy who's going to play right tackle. He's a natural right tackle. He's a very good run blocker, which is where they're going to start. And I don't think it's a bad idea. I didn't like the idea of having to find guys to move to other sides and to do all stuff. Nate Solder's going to be on this team for 2 years, whether you like it or not. And that's going to be somebody who they'll replace, you know, down the road or even in free agency or wherever they're going to go. But it's nice to pick some guy who's out there, who's been a starter. And again, he's blocked for one of the best backs in college football for the last couple of years. So I think that that's a good pick. I knew they were going to go offensive tackle. You know, we talked about this on Monday, if they didn't get out of there. Now, somebody said to me the other day, you know, how do you pass up the linebacker from Clemson? He could be the next Lawrence Taylor. And you go, well, again, let's not get carried away. You got to pick for what you can grade here and what you need is. And I think it's a good pick.
Yeah, you know, I mean, Joe, I'm surprised because I did not think that Thomas was going to jump all the way up this, you know, the first offensive tackle off the board. But he has been rising on a lot of people's draft boards over the last week or so. I mean, when you come in, you have a guy who is a 3-year starter at left tackle in a pro-style spread offense, you know, and this gives him, to me, in the SEC, facing the kind of defenses he faced, I think that, you know, gives him, you know, more of an edge on some of these other guys. I mean, does he have to shore up his, you know, pass protection technique? Sure. But I mean, the kid gets the job done. I mean, look, for me, I mean, I thought they would have gone with Jedrick Willis out of Alabama, you know, a guy I thought who would be, even if he started on the right side, to learn the game, you know, to learn the game first before you made the switch. I thought he could play either side. I mean, he was a blindside protector for Tagovailoa, you know, so when you're the right tackle for a left-handed quarterback, you're essentially playing the same position as a left tackle for a right-handed quarterback. You know, I mean, I thought he would be the pick. I think, you know, if now he's available, I'll be interested to see if he does fall to 11, you know, to the Jets. You know, I think this guy's going to be a starter, maybe not from jump, but I think he's eventually going to be a solid starter who will pass block well, who will run block well. You know, and I thought his ability to run block outweighed even his ability as a pass protector, which would be a positive for a guy, you know, who to block for Saquon Barkley, which is another reason why I thought he would be the pick. So it's going to be interesting. Now, I don't have an issue with Thomas. He was number 2 on my board in terms of tackles. I'm just surprised he jumped Willis in this situation. So it now is going to be very interesting to see how many teams who thought Willis would be off the board at this point are licking their chops and, you know, looking to see if he's going to be available when it's their turn, starting with the Jets.
You know, we made a point the other day on Monday. I just want to jump in real quick. You and I, we made a point on Monday that with the Giant coaching staff having such a college presence and having guys that know guys from Alabama and the SEC and all stuff, we said, getting to know these guys on an everyday basis is either a plus or it's a minus for the kid. We don't know what this other kid from Alabama, maybe somebody called up and said, I was with this kid every day. He's got a lousy attitude or it was hard to coach or whatever. Not saying that, but you don't know if it's always a positive just because there's a lot of guys that know people from Alabama. It could have been, hey, we like this other kid better. We played against him a lot, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's always the information you don't know that sometimes comes out and sometimes doesn't come out.
Yeah, that's a great point, Joe.
Anthony?
Yeah, I wonder how much, honestly, Joe Judge being the head coach and maybe that old Bill Belichick connection and reach out to Nick Saban. Maybe Saban gave him a heads up. Okay, this is a guy we played against. He's a 3-year starter. And we how this kid operated. But for me, I felt like the Giants should have went with Isaiah Simmons, not because he was now I don't think he's the next Lawrence Taylor. I think that's going too far. But when you look at the other side of football, I feel like the last 2 years, the Giants, they got the generational talent in Saquon Barkley. They got the franchise quarterback in Daniel Jones. I felt like this was a time to now focus on the other side of football. You think about that young secondary that was exposed badly last year because of a lack of a pass rush. We signed Leonard Williams after he traded for him with the Jets, but we don't know what exactly he's going to do with the Giants. He didn't do much with the Jets as far as being a pass rush. And with Isaiah Simmons, you basically get 3 players instead of one. You get a guy who can line up, has a lineman. You get a guy who can basically be a linebacker. You get a guy who could drop back in the coverage and be a great cover guy. A lot of teams had him as a safety. I thought he would have been a great fit in the Giants 3-4 scheme, mainly because if it was hard to kind of judge what exactly he was going to do pre-snap in a 4-3, could throw in an extra linebacker, you never know because of his speed and his athleticism. He's great for the more athletic, mobile quarterbacks, a la Dak Prescott, somebody that the Giants has really had a hard time trying to deal with. Slowing down the read option, which the Eagles run with Carson Wentz an awful lot. And also now that you're going to have Dwayne Haskins, a big quarterback, he's not as mobile, but he's also hard to bring down. I'm looking in that division, and I'm thinking about the fact that you're passing on a guy who had 8 sacks and multiple interceptions, the first guy to do that since Khalil Mack in 2013. Granted, it was one season. But when you look at the Giants secondary, that was so bad. They were 28th in pass defense, gave up the most plays of 20 or more yards through the air. It was through a lack of pass rush. I mean, guys can only cover for so long before receivers eventually get open. I feel like the Giants could have got somebody that could be an impact player at all 3 phases of the defense. I know that offensive tackle was a big need for the Giants, but I feel like they could have gotten a good offensive tackle who could be a long-term starter in the second round. They should have took care of the defense with the first pick. That's how I'm leaning. I feel like they should have went with Simmons and not an offensive tackle right out of the gate.
No, I got you on that, Anthony. And my only comment there is that the thing about Simmons is that he doesn't have a legit plug-and-play NFL position on the defensive side of the ball. To me, it was key that this kid's got to go to a place where a coach is there who can creatively make use of him. And I don't know if from that perspective, if the Giants would have been the right fit. I don't argue what you're saying in terms of what he brings and could bring. It's a question of, does he fit the scheme of the New York Giants defense as it currently is existing? And Joe, I don't know that he does.
No, and I think the point, Anthony kind of makes my points for me because I look at it a little bit different way. He can't play all those 3 positions at the same time. So he's not going to be the great safety, the great linebacker, and the great pass rusher on the same play. So they don't really have a spot. You got Julius Peppers, the same type of guy. They signed 2 linebackers this year. They signed Bradbury. They have a couple of guys, there's a lot of still guys out on the street who are pass rushers. They got some young guys that they've drafted over the last few years. So to say, if you had a pure guy like Chase Young and say he's a pass rusher, yeah, go get him. They're going to find other guys. This is the first pick, by the way. They've got a lot more. They've got 9 more picks.
Yep.
You can find some pass rushers. You can find some other guys. You should find some, they did go out and spend that money in free agency to get a cornerback who is, again, one of those guys who's already played in the league, who hopefully can shut down half of the field for you and can cover some of that stuff because it's going to cover up the Janoris Jenkins's mistakes and all those guys. So I think you're going to see a lot of more. Again, they got 9 more picks, so we're going to see where they go. But the fact that he can't play all 3 positions on the same play, so where were you going to put him and where was he going to make the most impact is still only at one spot.
Yep.
So, even though you can move him down to down to down. So I don't disagree. He's a good kid, but obviously the fact that he's going to drop to 11 or 8 or whatever, again, this might have been one of those overhyped, somebody who saw his speed, his athleticism. He's not that heavy. He's not a big kid.
Nope.
That's why they say, he's not really a linebacker. He's more of a safety. He's more of a blitzer. He could play slot corner. I'm not picking a slot corner at 4.
Exactly.
That's not what I'm looking for. So I think that even though he's been hyped as being a very athletic kid, and I think he'll have a good career, I think it'll take him a time, and he's got to be in the perfect scheme for it to work out.
I agree.
Pick
is in for number 5.
The pick is in for number 5. Let's talk about the Dolphins. They were one of the most talked about teams in this draft at pick 5. The team that was tanking for Tua didn't actually have to tank. They ended up getting their man. So Tua Tagovailoa is a Dolphin, and so I figured, why not bring in a Dolphins super fan, our regular host of the show, Miss Nisa Petrilli. Good evening, Nisa.
Hey, Nice.
How you
Nisa,
doing?
what's up?
Nice, can you hear us?
Nisa's still trying to connect to audio, so give me a second.
Okay.
But
Smiling because she got the guy she wanted.
she did, and let's talk a little bit about Tua Tagovailoa, because a lot of people thought that the hip injury and the fact that we couldn't really see a lot of Tua in the regular season and in these off-season workouts would hurt his stock. However, as we lost her for a second, we'll try to get her back on. However, it turned out that it was perfectly fine for the Dolphins. They've gotten a clear bill of health from almost everybody. And this is the right pick for the Dolphins. I'm glad that they're investing their future in a person who I believe myself is just as talented as Joe Burrow. I think this is a person this is his quarterback who is ready to start a pro-style offense from day one. And now, because you have Ryan Fitzpatrick as a bridge to Tua, or even Josh Rosen, I don't know if Rosen's the guy, but I think Pat Fitzpatrick would be a very good mentor for Tua. You have somebody that really can be a big help in this entire system. Anthony, I'm very happy that they picked Tua at number 5.
You know what? You make the argument that had it not been for Tua's season injury, that he probably would have gone number 2 in this draft. I'm seeing it like ESPN. They're making comparisons to Steve Young, Mark Brunell. I don't know if he's that mobile. I don't think he was prior to the injuries. I think he'll be even less mobile, and that's more of a precaution. You don't want him taking a lot of hits and being a little reckless running out of the pocket. But can he make the throws? Absolutely. And he has an arm. We've seen that. But also, I think Miami want locker room leadership right now.
Yeah.
They're a young team. They're a rebuilding team. They have a second-year coach, Brian Flores, who I personally root for because we grew up in the same neighborhood, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at how that team played down the stretch late in the year, including throwing a monkey wrench in the Patriots postseason plans, and we saw what happened to New England the very next week against Tennessee. I think it was a matter of leadership because Justin Herbert, he's a great quarterback, but there have been kind of the rumbles from the Senior Bowl about, his maturity. I don't know how true that is. The rumbles were there, but with Tagovailoa, you know that the leadership qualities are there. Remember, 2 years ago, he stepped in and basically won a national championship when Alabama's offense couldn't do anything against Georgia. And we saw last year how, it looked like he was on his way to another, Heisman Trophy candidate season. He suffered the injury. He's done a good job of working his way back. I think it's a great pick. I think it's a great pick because I think Miami really needed a culture change. I think Tagovailoa really helps and kind of steer that in the right direction.
Nisa, you're back with us. You've loved Tua from day one, and as a fellow Alabama hater like me, I just praised Tua. You're about to praise Tua. Why?
The guy's exciting. I mean, I hate Alabama, but I loved watching him play for Alabama. He's an exciting player. He came in, as a freshman, just electric. So I think he's going to bring, some excitement, a whole new energy, as Anthony was saying, to the team and in the locker room. And I mean, as a long-suffering Dolphins fan, we haven't had a quarterback since Marino. I'm sorry, I don't care. Jay Fiedler, whatever. We have not had a quarterback in 20 plus years, since Marino. We've only had one playoff victory in the last 20 years. So let's be optimistic. Yes, the injury issues, obviously we don't know what's going to happen there, but I'm trying to be optimistic and, hopefully he looks like his old self again and it'll be good.
Nisa, do you think
the fact that the NFL season is going to potentially start a little later and he'll get less wear and tear coming into the season will be of a help? You got to believe coming out of this injury, as much, lack of contact time, the better, right?
Absolutely. The more time he can heal and recover and and work out, it'll be good. But I'm definitely excited about it. If they didn't take him, I was going to be so pissed. I mean, there's no other option. You have to roll the dice, even though, with the injury issues.
Nisa, one more question before we let you go. I know Fitzpatrick towards the end of the season was a real help to Miami and probably helped usher the end of the Tom Brady era. Let's have one cheer for that, everybody.
Yay!
But do you think Fitzpatrick might start a few games? Do you think Tua might redshirt this season, kind of in 2020? Or do you think Tua is ready to go from moment one?
I would like to think that Tua would be ready to go from week one, but it really is going to depend on his recovery and how things go, off season and in training and stuff. It's really going to depend. You might see Fitzpatrick maybe starting a game or two, but I can't see Tua sitting out the whole season. That doesn't seem likely.
So, I mean, my thought is that you might have a situation more so brought on by the recovery than anything else, similar to what the Giants had with Daniel Jones last year, where you had the veteran quarterback start, let the kid learn for however many games you think, depending on when you think he's ready and when how you think the season is going. And honestly, I think that would not be a bad way for Tua to kind of ease into the pro game. And look, Sean Roman said this to us last week. The NFL has not been kind to left-handed quarterbacks. So
no, they have not. Nisa, thank you for joining us. Nisa, thank you for joining us tonight. Let's hope we can all be back in the studio sometime in the near future, as much as we love our Zoomness. Safe travels down there. Stay safe down there in Maryland.
Thanks so much, guys. Good to see you guys.
Hey,
take care. Bye.
All right, before we go back to what the Giants are going to do for the rest of the draft, let's talk quickly about what the Chargers just did.
What, I don't get to put my 2 cents in about Tua?
Want to? I mean, we're talking about it right now, but what are your thoughts quickly, Jay, before we move on?
Okay, here's the thing. I mean, look, if he seems to be healthy for everything that we have heard from doctors and we have seen from him, and he has posted some videos of himself, moving, throwing, and it seems like if he's healthy, and that's the key, the kid has incredible instincts. He has a great arm. The only concern for me is this. He seems to, when he's got a solid pocket, or if he's automatically on the run with an RPO and zone read type of things, he's solid. When he's back in the pocket and all of a sudden that pocket is starting to break down, you wonder if he has a little bit of, this when the pressure is kind of overwhelming. The one thing I'd like to see him scale back on in the NFL is his propensity to play hero ball. Does he have the arm that can make the plays? Yes, but we all know the defenses are more complicated. The throwing windows are a lot smaller. It's why I broached the question of Tanisa of whether or not she thinks it's a good idea, because I think it's a good idea that this kid not start from day one, because learning how to – it's not just that he's getting back to being able to play football again. He now has to learn – not only does he have to learn how to do this and all the things that were previously muscle memory he has to relearn, he now has to relearn it in an environment that's a lot more complex, a lot more faster paced, and is a lot different even than playing in the SEC. So let's see what happens. I hope he redshirts, if not the whole year, at least the beginning part of the year.
Yeah, he brought up that perplexity to kind of get a little fidgety. I think back to the national championship game against Clemson. It seemed like the more he tried to do too much, the more it just led to disaster in that game for Alabama. He's going to have to learn to dial it back a little bit. I mean, realize that he doesn't have to win the game on every snap, on every throw, and he's going to have to kind of get that pocket awareness up a little bit, because he's holding the – like we see with the read option, he's deadly, but if he's holding the ball too long, he's got to get the ball out of there. The NFL, that pass window do not last but so long before guys are on your back. He's going to have to really get that pocket pass, that pocket awareness up. But also, I feel like having Fitzpatrick there, a seasoned veteran, and sometimes we kind of underappreciate the value of a quarterback who's been in the league for a long time, has kind of seen it all, done it all. I think having him there would be great just to learn the basic nuances of the National Football League and basically just learn the toughest quarter skill position, quarterback to step in and to be effective right away. I think I can see Tagovailoa maybe playing later in the year if the Dolphins are kind of out of it, as we expect this to be another rebuild year. But like I said, I think Tagovailoa for the cultural change in that locker room. Remember, guys was asked to be traded and be released when the season started. It looked like that front office literally did nothing to help Brian Flores' cause. But you know what? He stuck with it. He stuck with what he was trying to preach. The team got better as the season progressed. They pretty much unofficially started the end of the Tom Brady era in New England with that Week 17 upset.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I think Tagovailoa is stepping into a better situation in Miami now than what would have been a year ago had he came out of Alabama and was a top pick in the draft as people initially expected.
Yep. Joe, thoughts?
Perfect pick. Again, leadership, locker room, winner, already knows how to win, already has championships under his belt. Perfect for them, perfect for the city. There's nothing wrong with that pick at all. It's the guy they needed to take. They got away with not having to move up. They didn't have to jump anybody, didn't have anybody jump in front of them. They get to keep all of their picks that they have because they have a ton of first round picks.
Yep.
So really good. Derek Brown just went to the Panthers. I see.
That's a solid pick for them. But
That's a nice pick. Good pick.
Justin Herbert. So let's talk Justin Herbert.
Well, let me make one final comment on Tua before we move on here. I think I just said it in my intro perfectly. For a team that was supposedly tanking for Tua in the beginning of the season, they got Tua at number 5, and now they can really do the rest of that draft. Joe, perfect analysis on that. Chargers have new digs, the best new uniforms in the biz, and their man. Let's go back to pick number 6 and quarterback Justin Herbert. Quack, 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 quack. Perfect Oregon Duck. Jay, I'll start with you. Is this the best way to go for LA's second sister for their future?
Yeah. I am actually pleased that things so far, to at least in terms of the quarterbacks, and to a large extent so far through the first few picks, has gone chalk. To me, this is the right place for him to land. You needed to not have the disillusionment or lack of hope for the Chargers with the parting of ways with Phillip Rivers after all of those years. They needed to find a guy who's going to be able to step in, and maybe even if he doesn't start right off the bat, but who brings what you need to at least give Charger fans hope for the future, that maybe they've found the next, Phillip Rivers. I mean, the kid has a quick, compact delivery. He doesn't seem to be able to require a lot of effort to drive the ball down the field. He seems to be comfortable both in the pocket and as a scrambler. Has mobility to buy time or, move the chains himself. This kid was impressive. 10,500 plus yards, 95 TDs. The kid was a 4-year starter. And to me, that says something. Starting all 4 years, to me, that's the kind of experience you rarely see in the quarterbacks who are coming into this draft. Tua did not have, maybe 2 years. Burrow had one big year and a second year as a starter. So you have a guy who has been through multiple coaches, played in multiple offenses in his 4 years. So he's adaptable. Got the right height, got the right body. He has the right arm. So, did he spend most of his time, of late in a shotgun spread type of scheme? Yes. Does he need, maybe he's going to have to get an adjustment playing under center for a certain extent, but a kid who broke all of Marcus Mariota's, most of his school records, you kind of got to give him some, props there. Comes down to it. He's a dual threat type of passer. He's got the combination of size, athleticism, and arm talent that you want. Does he need to sharpen his decision-making? Yes, because as we keep saying, I'm going to harp on it because people need to understand just how true this is. The defenses and the coverages and the reads are a lot more complicated, and the windows you're throwing into are a lot smaller. So if he can sharpen his decision-making, especially when the pocket starts to break down, he projects as a guy who can be a solid to, above average starter, especially if he plays in an offense that is play action heavy, which can utilize his athleticism. I like the pick, and I think the Chargers are going to be in good stead if this guy plays to form of what we're seeing. If potential becomes a reality, will become an even better pick than I think it is right now. And right now, I think it is the right pick for them at the right time.
I agree with you, Jay. I think it's the right pick, right time. They needed, obviously, they're ushered out the Phillips River era. Herbert steps in. But I'm with you. I agree with everything you said. He has to work on his decision making. And also, when you're playing a spread formation, you're in a shotgun an awful lot. It's a little different than line up under center and having to look over those big nasties up front, the linemen, and trying to read the defense, that being about 5 or 6 steps back and being able to see everything, including the secondary. So that's going to be an adjustment for him. But I think it's for 32 touchdowns, 6 interceptions last season. Big arm, a big dude, 6'4", 240, with the athleticism of someone who is much smaller. I think he's a great pick without question. It's kind of cool that he gets to go from the university that probably has the coolest uniforms combined to the NFL team that might have the best uniform combination schemes going into next season. I mean, he's going from Oregon and the Pac-12 to the big market of Los Angeles and a new stadium and higher expectations. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he's able to adjust to that going into his rookie year.
Hey, man, and no less an expert than my 7-year-old niece, Harmony Eve Petrilli, knows just how cool those Ducks uniforms are. So if she's cool, that pretty much seals it. Joe, what do you think of the pick, man?
Yeah, 4-year, like you say, Jay, 4-year starter in the Pac. You never get a Pac-12 quarterback anymore. These guys usually play 6 games and they want to come out and get traded to the Jets and go play quarterback. At least he stayed there. He won a Rose Bowl. He went off the field a winner. I'm not an Oregon fan at all. I can't stand Oregon. I can't stand USC. I don't like Pac-12 football at all.
You do.
I think none of them are any good. But I think
not.
the fact that, yeah, I know. I think the fact that they obviously needed a quarterback. There's a lot of talk they were going to pick something else, but that was the right pick. They needed a quarterback. They were going to take whoever was there. They weren't going to move around because San Diego doesn't like to spend too much money, as we know. So hopefully he doesn't get stuck in the Eli vacuum that he didn't want to be in. Hopefully they can put more than 30,000 people in that 75, 80,000 seat stadium that they're going to open in LA. He's got to be the guy that brings in some people and hopefully get some Oregon people to be San Diego fans, because nobody from San Diego cares anything about the Chargers anymore. And it's hard to take anybody away from the Rams because they've been on such a good roll for a while. So he's going to have to be the guy that starts to put some people in the seats. And so hopefully he can live up to that and live up to his potential. And just so you guys know, one last thing, Rabbi, we talk about football and the, NCAA is now all shotgun all the time.
Yeah.
Well, high school football just made a rule change this year. You can now spike the ball to stop the clock from the shotgun formation.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, it used to be intentional grounding because
Right.
you weren't under center.
Pockets.
Well, they changed the rule this year in California. You can now do it from the shotgun. So it ain't changing anytime soon. These kids are gonna learn less and less and less how to take a snap as the years go on.
Oh no, that's already way, way, way out the window. One last thing. I hope to God this guy is not another Joey Harrington, first of all, because you know how that worked out. Also, I'm kind of curious.
He went to the Lions when the Lions were just flat out awful. So
Chargers aren't that much better right now. Although the one thing I'm kind of curious with is, and me and Jay, I know you and I have talked about it before. I know you said that it was kind of a smoke show, them giving all of their love to Tyrod Taylor. I still think Tyrod Taylor could be at least a starter this year.
Yeah,
to really bridge to Herbert. But
Tyrod Taylor is the living definition of what you call a serviceable NFL starting quarterback. He is the epitome of a guy who can come in, he can manage the game, he may make a big play here or there. He, for the most part, will not lose it for you. And if you need somebody to be a bridge, while you're moving a guy, there you go.
Yeah. We're going to go back to the top 10 once the rest of the top 10 is finished, and we'll get to the Jets in just a few minutes. But let's go back to the Giants real quick. They're going to pick at number 36 in the draft, 36 or 37. I don't remember which one it was. 36, okay. They have a numerous amount of polls. I can't mention all of them. We would still be here until 10 o'clock.
Exactly.
So, Joe, what way do you think that they go in the future rounds? Give me a player, maybe just give me a position if you can.
Yeah, just to go back over one thing with Andrew Thomas, because I know how the Giants think, and we always talk about this. You know, this isn't about who I think they should pick. It's about how they decide who they're going to pick. He was first team All-SEC by the coaches in 18 and 19, and he was one of 4 permanent team captains. If you go back,
he's a leader. That's what I was going to mention
go,
with him when I was picking him at 11. He's a leader.
So All-SEC by the coaches, which is more important than anything else, than AP guys and all this stuff, and then to be team captain. If you go back on all the Giants draft picks for the last 4 or 5 years, every one of them has been a team captain. It's what they like. They like leaders in their rooms. Not just, you know, at their positions or whatever it is. So again, sticking with how they pick players, that was the guy that they decided to go with. I think is the right pick. Where they go now, you know, they could go center, the kid from Michigan that we've talked about in the second round. You know, not a bad pick. They could go defense. You could find a couple of, maybe an edge rusher here or a safety, obviously. So I think the places of need are edge rusher, safety, and continue to build offensive linemen, because they've had 2 really good centers in Spencer Pulley and John Halapio. Pio's been taken off the field the last 2 years with injury and missed 8 games the first time, and last year was the last game that he ripped his Achilles. So no matter how good he is and no matter how many times he can come back, you always have to plan on him maybe not playing a full season. So I think going center and continuing to build the offensive line. Again, when you have who you think your quarterback is, and he showed that he's probably you picked the right guy, and you have a running back, you might as well. And again, you picked Darius Slayton last year in the 6th round, and he turned out to be a fantastic wide receiver. So you're not like desperate at any of those spots anymore. So continue to build that offensive line. Daniel Jeremiah said it the other day. He said, I think the Giants would like to start losing games 30-10 instead of losing 10-9. You know, they don't want to. They want to be able to score points. They want to be able to put points up on the board and then continue to build the defense. Hopefully Baker comes in and plays better in the second year out of Georgia at cornerback. Again, they signed Bradbury. They signed Blake Martinez. They signed a bunch of guys, Leonard Williams. So I think they continue to build the offensive line early. And then you've got 4 seventh-round picks. That's where you're going to get kickers. You're going to get special teams guys. You're going to get gunners. You're going to get all kinds of speed guys in those picks. And I think that's how they go for the rest of the night.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, I kind of agree with you with that. I mean, you talked about leaders, the kind of guys that they want, you know, guys who are good in a room. And I mean, one of the needs of this team is, I still believe, it's wide receiver. I don't think they have enough there. So the guy that I'm looking at, who if they don't want to get him, you know, in the second round, he may still be there in the third round. And you don't like Pac-12 football, but I do watch a fair amount of it.
Yeah. 4 conferences, not Big 5.
Well, so the guy I'm looking at is a guy I've watched who I think will transition well. And that's Michael Pittman out of USC. You know, the guy has the NFL body you're looking for. He's 6'4", he's 223. You know, he's second generation NFL. I mean, his father, Michael, played 11 years in the NFL. And Pittman Jr. has a lot of, you know, his father's same, you know, toughness and, you know, attitude and will not go down type of a situation. I mean, he's a big body guy. I think he belongs in the top 10 in terms of wideouts. He's tough in traffic. I mean, he was a leader in that locker room, strong after the catch. He has more what you call play speed as opposed to flat out 40 time. His 40 time is only about 4.5. So, I mean, look, the guy can make contested catches. He's got the great physique. He focuses on his routes. He can finish away from defenders, great body control. He's comfortable catching the ball in any type of scenario. He releases well. And he's the type of guy who was a 3-year starter, okay? You know, and he worked, again, in multiple offenses. He went starting out in a pro-style offense to Graham Harrell's spread scheme, and he was comfortable in both. So the guy put up numbers. And, look, this is a guy who, if you think about it, 140 targets last year, he had 2 drops. Does he have dynamic start and stop burst to quickly create separation or get yards after the catch? Maybe not as some of the other top-tier guys in the league. But, look, this is a guy who is going to win physical matchups, focus on catch of the point, and I think he's going to be a reliable possession target at all 3 levels in the NFL. And if you're looking to build depth and give yourself another playmaker or some type of safety blanket for a guy like Daniel Jones who can grow up with him, I think Pittman's the guy you want to take a look at if he's still around at 36. I can't see him falling past the Giants' number 3 slot at 99, but I think he should be there at 36. And if he is, I think you get him. We'll see.
Well, I know for me, obviously I would have gone defense with the first pick with Simmons. I would have used the Giants' second round pick on an offensive tackle. I would have gone with Austin Jackson, the kid from USC. I look at him, his long arms, growth potential, very agile. He's durable. He's played every game the last 2 seasons at left tackle. We mentioned earlier that Nate Solder's pretty much is going to be gone after the season. So you would have had a guy that has a huge upside, but also the pressure to come in and be a starter right away will not be there. You think of a lot of Giants fans kind of having nightmares of Eric Flowers and how that high pick became a bit of a train wreck after a couple of seasons. I think it would have been a little bit of a short pick if the Giants used the second pick on an offensive tackle, but the draft went that high, and maybe not the tackle everyone was expecting. Like I said, I mean, maybe get him in and see something, and Joe mentioned the leadership quality that not anybody else is seeing, but we'll see.
Yep. Yeah, and let's go quickly on another need for the Giants, which is safety. Mm-hmm. And Jabril Peppers had a ton of injuries in 2019. Yeah. He's going to be on the team, obviously, this year, but you don't know if you can trust him. Julian Love is a free safety. He's very inexperienced. You don't know what the heck you're going to get from him. There's no real first round talent in this draft at safety. So I'm going to homer myself again for the second time tonight, and I'm going to give them LSU's Grant Delpit. He's started double-digit games at LSU for the last 3 years. A very instinctive safety. His work ethic has been mentioned as good. Quickly can find the football. He's a horrible tackler. Any mistake that he can make might lead to a touchdown. He's drawn comparisons to Troy Polamalu, but that's from Ed Orgeron, so I don't know how much you can take that. But I think there's enough talent here to go Delpit. I know a lot of people have been talking wide receiver for the Giants. I think you can get by with what you have at wide receiver this year, because I think Tate is a very serviceable number 1 guy, and I think the guy Shepard, I know Shepard, but I'm trying to think of the guy who kind of really started making those catches. Slayton was a big help for them during the season. So I think you're fine at wide receiver. You don't need to spend a second-round pick at wide receiver. I think you need to go defense.
Especially if Evan Ingram is healthy and can produce what he can do, then you're fine at receiver. So
Joe, you just said the words, if Evan Ingram is healthy. You know that doesn't really exist.
It's an oxymoron, Joe. You know you can't.
But he's in that 4th year, which is where you kind of figure it out, right? First, guys always get hurt their first year in training camp or whatever, and then second year they try to figure out how to get hit the right way. So once you get into this, we'll see how he holds up.
So we're gonna stall for a very quick second because the Jets are on the clock. We did not expect them to have a choice at tackle. They don't get Willis. Willis just went to Alabama at 10.
Cleveland.
Just didn't, to Cleveland. Yeah. I mean, Willis went from Alabama, went to Cleveland at 10. I minced my words because I almost missed that pick while I was talking. But so Wirfs might be the pick at number 11. Where do you guys think, before we can look? The Jets have had 2 basic needs in this whole entire draft, and almost everyone thought that they would go 2 ways: offensive tackle or wide receiver. which way do you think they should go? I think offensive tackle seems to be a certain now with Warb still on the board.
I got to tell you.
Go ahead, Jay. I mean,
I said this in our production meeting on Monday, and I am dancing with who brung me. I think the pick here is wide receiver. I think this might be where the run starts. And I got to tell you, look, do they need an offensive lineman? Sure. But they have a ridiculous dearth of playmakers for Sam Darnold to get the ball to. And when you have the two best wide receivers in this draft available to you where you can flip a coin and probably not go wrong with either pick, I think you have to go wide receiver here.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to see that, Anthony. I mean, but offensive lineman, there is a stud still out there in works.
Yeah, I mean, we thought that he would be gone by the time the Jets pick. I know me personally, I feel like the Jets has been missing a guy who could get out of the quarterback, an edge rusher the last few years. I would have gone with Clavion Chaser from LSU. Obviously, he was ranked the second best pass rusher behind Chase Young. And I just looked at how he would fit in Greg Williams' very blitz-happy defense. You know, he's a guy, he had 6.5 sacks last year. Very good quickness, a guy you get around the corner, obviously. But you want somebody who can at least be able to get to the quarterback one-on-one without having to send so many guys. I thought that the Jets, only reason why they were kind of middle of the pack and pass rushes last season was because, you know, they blitzed a heck of a lot. But later on in the year, when teams were starting to pick that those blitzes up, the secondaries have been exposed. I feel like bringing somebody in, another edge rusher, would really complement that secondary led by Jamal Adams. But right now, the Jets have they can go either way. I mean, they got a lot of guys that I'm quite sure they didn't think would be available to them right now. So it'd be very interesting to see which direction to go. They have a number of needs on their team, so we should see.
Yeah,
about
I think that's the reason why
2:55 left. So we're kind of anticipating like everyone else.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that not too many offensive tackles went in the top 10. There was rumors that we would have a runoff of offensive tackles. A lot of Jets fans thought, okay, so maybe we'll get the fourth best tackle in this draft. But I'm a little surprised, as we'll talk about in the top 10 momentarily, that people like C.J. Henderson from Florida went 9 to Jacksonville. That's just a weird pick from a team that is kind of sort of trying to seeming tank this year for Trevor Lawrence in 2021.
That's a little disrespect of
quarterback. Jacksonville's made this year have been kind of mind-blowing. And I know it's just a little surprise. And I think with Simmons dropping down, and we'll talk to him momentarily as well, that the Jets really cannot get this pick wrong. You have so much good talent at this spot.
No,
hey, you think of it like
Joe, hang on, Anthony. Joe's wagging his finger. You can't just Dikembe Mutombo us and not talk.
Actually, I was going to say before this whole thing started, this is, and Jay, you'll be the only one who knows my reference here. I think this is the Jets' George Young moment. I think the fact that they got rid of, Woody Johnson and let Chris run the team, the fact that they brought in a real general manager, not some assistant guy that was in the room when some other team did some great things. They got a real guy. They got a real general manager. So I think this is sort of their turning point as a franchise. They start to make some really good decisions and clean house with whatever they have. But I agree with you. I think this is 3 wide receivers in a row coming up here. Maybe even 4, because this is where we got to go. But I'm sure that's why it took them forever to make this pick, because they didn't expect a lot of these guys to still be up there.
Yeah. If we look about this, it's a very deep draft for wide receivers. I mean, very deep, but the 2 top receivers are sitting there for the Jets, and they have one of the top linemen available. So this is very interesting. I'm quite sure there's a lot of Jet
receivers. So
yeah, I'm quite sure there's a lot of Jet fans who didn't think that they would literally have they'll pick whichever need they can get. I don't think they could go wrong with any of these picks right now.
No, and when just like when the Giants pick the number 4, there's a lot of good options out there. Like you can justify them picking exactly who they picked because offensive tackle was a huge need. And the top 3, I think Becton fell down a little bit because of his drug issues.
No surprise there.
Yeah, they're kind of interchangeable to me. Thomas was always a guy who I thought would easily be a great pick, a great value pick to the Jets at 11. So whoever the Jets end up getting here, I think is a great pick. As we're still waiting here for this pick.
Yes. By the way,
Henry Ruggs on there too. Ruggs, don't forget about him.
And you watch that CeeDee Lamb on the screen right now because everybody is thinking that the Jets are going to take wide receiver because
they want to though because that's like the skill position out there. There's 6 of them who's going to be probably picked here.
Let's see what the commission has to say, guys.
By the way, shout out to Michael Irvin for going with the full mini blowout.
Oh, wow. I guess I was too soon because the Jets did pick that 4th guy out there. I knew immediately when I said it. They ended up picking Mekhi Becton out of Louisville.
You know what? We all now have to say, I hope that Joe Douglas knows something that we don't. I hope this kid said something in interviews that would make them change their mind because of all of the guys that I thought they would pick. To me, this is not the pick.
Wow.
No, it's not. It's kind of a little bit of a surprise considering, I mean, Beckett was still as talented as the top 3, as I mentioned, but I thought that those drug issues in the combine, it would kind of make him fall down on the list. However.
Wait, hold on now. Oh, this is crazy.
Oh, yeah, this is him playing basketball.
He's a big
boy, though. He's still going to be a very good offensive lineman, but I'm a little surprised. I thought Wirfs would be a better pick at number 11.
Anthony, right pick or wrong pick here, man?
You know what? Shocking pick, more like it. You know what? They got the tackle, but they got the possibly 3rd, 4th best tackle that was entering the draft. I'm very happy for him, but you think about Sam Darnold not having really a lot of weapons on the outside as far as wide receiver, and you have 2 guys. You got Lamb, and we have Judy, who a lot of people was kind of comparing to Julio Jones as far as route running, and I'm like I said, I'm a little surprised by this pick.
Yeah, you know, I gotta say I am. I'm shocked, and Anthony's shocking pick is pretty much the only way to describe it. To me, when you have a quarterback who has a dearth of playmaking options on the perimeter to pass on the option to take either CeeDee Lamb out of Oklahoma or Jerry Jeudy out of Alabama, the top 2 receivers on the draft board, either one of whom, can step in and be an impact player from jump, guys who can run and play all 3 positions on the field in terms of wide receivers, guys who can go, who can play on the outside, play in the slot, go over the middle. These are the guys who can run, who have good route running skills, that have good ball skills, that have good playmaking skills. And you pass not on one or the other, but you pass on both. I got to tell you, I will be very much wanting to hear what Joe Douglas says in his post-draft presser to, explain why this is the route he went. And I will wager this, Rabbi, we can't hear him because they're quarantined, but I have a feeling there's a boatload of Jets fans who are booing this pick right now, and I honestly can't say I blame them.
Not necessarily. I think that here's what I think happened. I think they didn't think Wirfs would be available to them at 11, and when you see somebody, especially in this time of quarantine, and you fall in love with them, and you think you can deal with them, you pick them. And I think offensive tackle was always the biggest need for them. I like Judy.
I mean, if you're going to offensive tackle, why Becton?
Well, I think because I said that Becton was probably the guy that they thought would fall to them. They didn't maybe do a lot of investigating on Wirfs, and they might have thought Becton was a better fit for them. I think it was the worst possible pick at this spot, but I don't think any pick would have been a terrible pick. I'm surprised at the pick. It's not a terrible pick. Wirfs was supposed to go right over
Going in the back and forth, so go right ahead.
I take it back. I take back everything nice I said in the last 5 minutes about the Jets, because the way that you couldn't screw this up, Rabbi, you were absolutely right. And Jay, you made the point. We were arguing over, do you do Lamb and Judy or Judy and Lamb, and which is going to be the best pick for them? And because you know the Raiders are probably going wide receiver.
Oh yeah, they're definitely going wide receiver.
They pass on both of them, and again, so Sam Darnold will have a lot of time to throw to nobody,
Right?
Because he doesn't have anybody to throw. They let Robbie Anderson walk away because they didn't want to pay him. So you have no speed on the team at all. You have a running back, and a 34-year-old running back. You have a Quincy Enunwa who will play 8 games a year, and you might have a second-string tight end, and that's all he's got on offense at this point.
I'll tell you.
I think it's if you went tackle and you went to the other guy, then you could at least have some semblance of thought process here. But that was completely. And again, the kid's already in the first round of drug testing. In the NFL, he wouldn't be able to go to half his training camp as it was anyway.
Right.
So how do you pick this?
Another reason why I don't get that pick. I mean, of all of the potential options, to me, like I said, I want to hear what Douglas has to say as his reasoning behind passing on the wide receivers, passing on Wirfs, and taking a kid who has already got a red flag based on the drug thing. So, it's going to be interesting to see what was his mindset to make that pick, because you know what, Joe, I got to agree with you. All of the things that all the hype and props that we gave the Jets for finally bringing in a real general manager, it's going to be interesting to see how he fills out the rest of the draft slots. He's going to have, to my mind, for this to be a tier 1 and a B+ to A- draft for the Jets. They're going to have, to me, have to do a better job at 48, at 68, at 79. Because right now, to me, this is a C right now.
Yeah, you know what? I never thought I would live to see this generation's Kyle Brady moment. And this is what we're seeing. This is what we're watching right now. Remember that first draft? They get Brady and Kyle Brady, and Warren Sapp was literally the very next pick. Like I said, I like to hear the justification. I mean, when you have Wirfs and the 2 best receivers in the draft fall right into your lap. And look, I hope it works out for the kid, but he only got strike as far as drug testing. So you got a lot of Jet fans right now. We can't see them, but we can hear the echoes. We can feel the vibes of how can we possibly screw this pickup.
Rabbi, I'm sorry. I think more of them are booing than you think there are.
By the way, just before we go on, I'd like to give a special shout out to the Raiders, who decided to go for the fucking fast Alabama wide receiver in Ruggs at number 12 over Judy, which is a head scratcher to me. But whatever.
That's Gruden. Yeah, Chucky
but
never.
That's the Raiders. They go for the fastest damn guy.
Rabbi, in post-production, you're going to have to bleep out your own F-bomb.
I don't have to bleep on anything. This is...
But we're live on
all right.
So it doesn't matter.
Let's move on, guys. We are going to go a little bit over what we thought we were going to, but now we can get everything done for the rest of this stuff. Let's talk about the Jets' future. Jay just mentioned the picks that they have currently going. They are going to need a lot of holes, just like the Giants are. They haven't made the playoffs since the Rex Ryan era. So I think it's time they need some people. Anthony, where should the Jets go for the rest of this draft?
Wow. I'm still trying to catch my breath at what they didn't do. But you know what? I did say it was a pretty good throw as far as wide receivers in this draft. And I think they can still get a good quality wideout. Maybe not the top 2. But I'm looking at Chase Claypool from Notre Dame. I'm looking at a big, tall, receiving target in the red zone, a la Plaxico Burress was during his playing days. Look at his stats last year, over 1,000 yards receiving, 13 touchdowns. a bowl game MVP, had 4 touchdowns against Navy in one game. Size, speed, athleticism. He's 6'4". I would think that he would be more of a safe pick as far as Sam Darnold, who can be very inaccurate at times, and when he misses his receivers, he's throwing high. So it's good to have a good, tall receiver that could probably go up there and fight for the ball, especially deep down the red zone, which the Jets have struggled with the last few years as far as scoring.
Well, Anthony, I agree with you. I mean, wide receiver is a definitive need that they got to look at, somewhere between 48, 68, and 79. But that sound you guys hear is Sam Darnold picking up the telephone, calling Joe Douglas and saying, you didn't get you passed on the 2 best wide receivers. I want a guy I threw to in college. Go get me Michael Pittman. So I can see that happening. I thought they would take a wide receiver at the first pick. So I was not thinking that they would, that would be an immediate need for them throughout the rest of the draft. That being said, we also know that one of their needs is an edge rusher. And a guy that I'm looking at, and I think he will be there, at 79. I don't think he's gonna jump up the ladder. As a guy I saw play at Michigan, and that's Josh Uche, 6'1", 245. He's rangy. He can make, and here's the thing with him. He has a lot of untapped potential because the Michigan coaching staff did not give this kid enough reps. He's versatile enough that he never should have left the field, but he did not play as many downs as he should have. Still managed to finish his career with 56 tackles, 20.5 for loss, and 16.5 sacks. He's got a chip on his shoulder, but in a good way. He had to wait to play. He produced when he did. The more you talk to him, the more you like him. I think he's probably going to work best as a 3-4 linebacker type. He's a guy who can come off the edge. He's got good twitch. He converts his speed to power really well. He works well driving blockers backwards. He can change direction. He's got good quickness. He can redirect and recover in space. Is he undersized? Maybe a little bit. Does he have suspect point of attack skills? Maybe. He may need to work on detaching himself from blocks. But I still think this kid, even though he was just a 1-year starter and a stand-up edge rusher in that 4-3 scheme, I think he can play either way in the NFL. It's going to be interesting. I think going to a defensive staff like the Giants will allow him to, get developed, become more polished. But he comes in with athleticism and edge speeds that are NFL ready. And worst case, I think he gets on the field in sub packages like nickel rusher. And I think eventually he becomes a starter, and I think he will fit. Sorry, not Giants offense defense, but Jets defense. I think he's a guy that Greg Williams can work with and turn into a legit, worst case, consistent nickel rusher. But at the end of the day, I think he gets in the rotation as a pass rusher. And I think he'll learn a lot playing with Greg Williams.
So before we get to Joe's comments, let's get to me for a second. Jay, Le'Veon Bell, not getting any healthier and not getting any younger. I know he's 28. I know he's 28, but in running back years, he's like 50. So it's a rich running back class in round 2 of the NFL draft. So it's time to go for that running back of the future. As a pure runner, the option here for them would be Jonathan Taylor of Wisconsin. I've seen him go into the first round of the mock drafts today, but I think if he falls down to the middle of round 2, easy pick. He's a top 10 running back of all time in terms of yards and FBS. However, Bell is your pass catcher. He can be your straight runner. I know people don't say that you can't do 7 yards in a cloud of smoke anymore. I can't believe I used that reference today. I heard it, and now I'm definitely repeating it. But you can. You can have pure runners out there. So I think first my pick would be Taylor. But if he's not on the board, I'm going to hedge. I wanted to see Cam Akers of Florida State because he reminds me a lot of Dalvin Cook. Took over his job, has better moves, not as big of a pedigree at Florida State, but he might be a good complement to Bell if you want more years with him. Then if not, Let's go Clyde Edwards-Helaire of LSU, homer pick number 3 of the night. He's the best of the 3 in terms of pass catching. He's probably your more 2020s receiver in doing everything. He can kind of be your Swiss Army knife. Not a great blocker, but you don't expect running backs to be sometimes. You have good blockers in that system. I would probably go Taylor, Akers, and Edwards-Helaire in that order. Joe, you got any thoughts about what the Jets did after they?
Joe is salivating because he finally got what he's been waiting all first round for. Go ahead, Joe. Give it to us.
No, I had picked, as you know, Jay, I picked them getting an offensive tackle in the second round. I thought they'd get Ezra Cleveland or somebody of that nature because they had so many more pressing needs. Again, you don't really have a franchise quarterback. You think you do. That's fine. You have a running back who's going to play 8 games and then decide he doesn't feel like playing anymore. He's going to leave. You have nothing. You have absolutely nothing. You have no team at this point. You have a defensive guy. You have Jamal Adams, who all they can talk about is trading him. And you try to make him out to be the hero of everything. They have a fantastic, let's blitz every down and make it exciting for the fans. And they're still playing that game. And then they go and make this pick, which makes no sense at all. Talking about making no sense, why does Tampa Bay and San Francisco switch slots?
That's what I said you were salivating. You were waiting on draft for a trade.
Well, I think the reason why they switched slots was because San Francisco needed some draft capital, and Tampa Bay just got the guy to basically protect Tom Brady for years, and Tristan Wirfs out of Iowa. So that's a great pick, and a guy that we thought would go into the top 10. Speaking of the top 10 had some interesting moves. Oh, yeah, that's right. No trades.
Nope.
So never mind, but we do have some starting players from college going off the board. And it was a pretty quick 7 through 10. Let's do a right pick or wrong pick on any of the top 10. Jack, go first.
I got to tell you, I like Cleveland taking Jedrick Wills at 10. The Browns their offensive line has needed shoring up for years. And if you are of the firm belief that Baker Mayfield is your quarterback and you need to give him as much time as possible to get the ball downfield to Jarvis Landry, to Odell Beckham, or to, pave holes for Nick Chubb, then you know what? You can't go wrong with Wills. I mean, I talked about him up at the top because I thought he was the pick for the Giants. I think what he brings to Cleveland is what he would bring to the Giants. You can start him at right tackle, get him up and running. Does he have a future as a left tackle? We will see. But you know what? I think it's a good fit. I think it fills an immediate need. And, I can't see how Nisa's husband Alan or his father would have a problem with that pick at 10. I like it. I think it's a perfect fit of right guy, right pick, right time, fills a need.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jay. I mean, I think Cleveland Browns fans, if there was any other thing that they may have got tired of besides Baker Mayfield and these commercials, was watching Baker Mayfield running for dear life and having to pick himself up after every pass play.
Yep.
So yeah, to get one of the top linemen to show up that blind side is definitely a big win for Cleveland. Also, another guy that I'm looking at is Derek Brown going to Carolina, and that was
Nice pick.
I thought that was a really big pick as well. They needed some showing up front. Because you think about it, they lost Joe McCoy, Cole as well. So I really feel like he's going to be able to fit in right away and be a decent starter for the Carolina Panthers.
Yep. Joe, who do you like?
Well, I do like the Cleveland pick because I think there's another organization that's now on the right path because they got rid of that head coach of theirs that was a complete clown that only was there because Baker Mayfield said, I want him to be the head coach. And again, stupid idea. You got a new ownership in there. They're going to try to clean it out, do it their own way. So get somebody to protect him, give him some time. You already got him all the playmakers you need. Now you got to give him some time to get him the ball. But I also go back and look at Tua. I think Tua is the perfect fit for a Miami team who wants a hero, who wants a guy who's going to walk in there, be confident, walk in. Every day he's going to come out on that field. You're going to feel like you can win a game like they have. Like Nisa said, they really haven't had that in 20 years that you really felt confident about who that guy is going to be. Whether he's successful or not, whether he stays healthy or not, completely different question. But he's definitely going to be the face of that franchise, the leader of that team, and the leader of that locker room. So those are the two. If you're going to stay in the top 10 and throw out the top 2 picks, obviously, then I think you guys are right. The Cleveland pick is good, and I really do like Tua going to Miami.
I myself will go over the other 2 picks in the from 7 to 10. I hate the C.J. Henderson pick for the Jaguars. I know they wanted. I just hate that pick for them. I think with so much talent still remaining in wide receivers and offensive linemen, to go cornerback of a guy who probably would have still been around in the mid-teens. Yeah, like I said before, the Jaguars are tanking and they want Trevor Lawrence next year. They're going to be a 2-14 team, mark my words, if they play 16 games. However, Isaiah Simmons going to 8 to Arizona. My God, Arizona's offseason has been spectacular.
Yep.
I think because he has no natural position, as we talked about before, Anthony, that's probably why he went down here. But you got a Clemson guy. He started for the national title team in 18, runner-up in 19. He is one of the few people who can play 4 downs in any position. He's probably going to be a safety, could be a corner. You can use him in linebacker. He is the defensive version of Christian McCaffrey as a Swiss Army knife. Amazing pick, guys.
And essentially, Rabbi, he replaces the Honey Badger.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think he has more talent than the Honey Badger coming out of college, and that's tough for me to say as an LSU fan. But there's a lot of good Clemson players in this draft. It's nice to see Simmons at least go top 10.
Yeah.
Finally tonight, we have the big 3 QBs that went in round 1. So you're going to talk about 4 other QBs who started in college, well, 3 who were big-time names, and 1 who I get who has the intangibles to be picked all over them in our quarterback review. We start with Jay.
The guy who intrigues me is the guy who's probably going to get lost in the shuffle between some of the other guys who have more of the measurables, if you were, and that's Jake Fromm out of Georgia. He's projected as a 3rd rounder. He's a 3rd-year junior. Look, I think what you're getting here is a kid who has solid leadership. Even if he comes in as a backup, he's not going to be one of those guys who's, been reading his own press clippings and thinks he should be starting. People are down on him, but this is a guy who in back-to-back years basically beat out Jacob Eason, who transferred to Washington, and Justin Fields, who transferred to Ohio State. And both of those guys are considered, Eason's in this conversation. Fields will be when he comes out. So, this kid won at Georgia, which is not easy considering the people he was playing with. Does he have the big arm? Does he have the big legs? Maybe not at the same level as some of these other guys, but this kid is above the neck. He's off the charts. The fact that he can't get in front of teams and have a pro day is probably what's going to hurt him a little bit. Think about this, guys. His career, if you went by the NFL's passer rating, his career was 108.5. This is a kid who knew how to quickly move from his first read to his second read to his third read, understand the whys and the wheres of this progression. And I think coaches will appreciate that. Granted, Georgia protected him a little bit with the run game, and he had 2 awesome running backs and their play calling. But the kid showed an ability to anticipate and throw receivers open, and I think that's going to have him fit well into pro offenses that have West Coast principles. Look, here's the thing. Does he have a 100-mile-an-hour fastball? No. Does he need to have a little more faith in himself and trust himself? Yeah, maybe. Does he tend to drift backwards in the pocket instead of stepping up? Maybe, but these are things that can be worked on. For a guy who can read all of the route trees in front of him, understands his progressions and can work through them in real time. To me, that's something that transitions. High IQ, especially for a quarterback, is something that NFL guys in my estimation, spend too much time overlooking, and it's something that actually I think is going to benefit him down the line. I mean, it's tough to evaluate him because he doesn't have the big arm, the big athleticism. I mean, he's not 6'5", 250. But I tell you what, you know, he is well above NFL average in the two most important things, in my mind and a lot of scouts' minds, that's accuracy and mental processing. And those are skills that you either have or you don't. This kid could be an NFL starter, you know, in the right scheme. And it's funny, there was a note by a scout in Sports Illustrated, and he said, I don't think he can get you to a Super Bowl, but I wouldn't be surprised if he winds up there somehow. You know, it'll be interesting, and it'll be dependent on where he lands. But if he lands in the right situation, I think he can be a really good, solid NFL quarterback, even if he doesn't become, you know, the next Aaron Rodgers. I like him. I have liked him. I've said it more than once on the show. I'm still sticking with that.
You like him?
I do.
Anthony.
You know what? For me, I'm looking at Jalen Hurts, and we kind of forget that he was a Heisman Trophy runner-up. He is a national champion. You look at what he did last year for Oklahoma. He accounted for 52 touchdowns on offense, 32 through the air, 20 on the ground to go with 1,300 yards rushing. He is a perfect fit for a read-option offense. You look at what he has to work on, and this is the one thing, that he's more of an anticipation thrower. And in the NFL, that's not going to work. I mean, guys are going to be reading your eyes. You're going to be jumping routes. He's going to have to learn to throw guys open. But also the completion percentage has to come up. You know, he only completed 69% of his passes last year. But what I like about Hurts is his makeup. He can come in and lead. He does know how to win big games when it comes down to it. When the team I'm thinking that he can really fit in, I'm looking at Jay's team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, you look at Roethlisberger, who maybe have 1 or 2 more years left. The backup options they had last year, exactly why you whatsoever. Jalen Hurts to come in, he'll be in a situation where he can learn from a veteran quarterback, a great head coach in Mike Tomlin, a good foundation, a good environment, great winning culture, and be able to kind of learn the system and not have to come in like the other quarterbacks and be an immediate impact player. So I think Hurts would be a great fit in a Steel City.
Well, you know, it's interesting, and everybody, of course, is talking about whether or not the Steelers will elect to take a quarterback in this year's draft. And I think it comes down to a question if they see somebody who they think could possibly fit in their system. I think Hurts transferring to Oklahoma was the best thing he could possibly have done for his draft stock, because I think he's in the conversation because of that, because he was put into a pass-happy offense. The question is, would he be able to succeed in it? He did, and you can say whether that's a result of just, you know, Lincoln Riley's offense, but, you know, Hurts, I kind of think, improved his draft stock. Is he a fit in Pittsburgh? I don't know, because part of me looks at him and I see Joshua Dobbs, and that may be unfair to Hurts, but it will be interesting to see. I do think he will find a home somewhere. Again, it has to be the right situation. Joe, which of these quarterbacks are you looking at?
Well, I was assigned my favorite Pac-12, section to look at. As always, I always get these guys. But Jacob Eason, who, as you mentioned, had to transfer out of Georgia and go to Washington. And, you know, his problem is he was a redshirt to begin with. He played a little bit at Georgia. He was not the starter at Georgia. Even when he got there, he was behind the senior, and the guy got hurt, so they put him into play. Then he had to sit out a year because of the transfer portal. And he winds up in Washington, and they wind up going to the Las Vegas Bowl, not exactly like the Rose Bowl that they were in the year before with Georgia. So, and he's got some really big knocks on him. I mean, he's a big kid, and he's got a big arm, but they say moving around in the pocket is not strong. He needs a really clean pocket. He needs to not have any pressure. He's not good at just getting away on his own. He's not very athletic as far as that goes. He's not very accurate when he throws, when he's on the run. So these are all the things that are very tough, that if you don't have those skills coming into the NFL, yeah, you can learn them, but it's going to take you a couple of years. So maybe he goes to, they've talked to him about going to New England. They've talked to him about going to a New Orleans team. You talk to him about going to maybe a Tennessee, a team that's got a quarterback for a couple of years that he can then start from scratch basically and get a really good quarterback coach to stick with him and to walk him through the progression. But right now, he's a number 2 quarterback who should learn how to use the iPad on the sideline and learn as much as he can from somebody because he's not starting anywhere. And he can be one of those guys who's a developmental guy and maybe he gets into a game when there's injuries or whatever it is, but he's going to be playing preseason probably because he'll be the second guy on somebody's chart there or the third or fourth guy. And he'll probably go to some place, and Rabbi, you and I have talked about this. He has to go to some place where he can practice with the team.
Yeah.
Because you can't send him to Baltimore and make believe he's Lamar Jackson. He can't practice the same offense. So you have to find a pro offense where it's a pocket passer, where it's he's a Jameis Winston type player is who he is. And who's on the street right now is Jameis Winston. So
very on the streets.
Yeah, very on the street. And he's already got some NFL experience. So where's this kid going to go? Except the fact that he's cheap because he'll get drafted in the second or third round. He's going to be a second or third string guy. So.
Joe, we assign you, and we assign you the West Coast games because you're the only one that's able to stay up for them if you actually can. We're usually doing other stuff on Saturday night, and we can't really care about the Pac-12 that much. So, all right. So all of the guys you picked are going to be drafted at either day 2 or day 3. The guy who I'm about to pick is hopefully not going to be drafted by the time I'm done talking, and that's Jordan Love. There was a lot of talk of him going top 10 from Utah. He is from Utah State. There was a lot of talking about him going top 10. Luckily, the Chargers or Dolphins didn't pull the trigger because his 2019 was kind of bad. He did have a new coach at Utah State. He did learn a new system at Utah State. But again, it's Utah State. If you are a really good quarterback, you should dominate your division, your conference. And he didn't. He had one of the worst uncatchable ball rates of any prospect in this draft. He had a much worse year than he did in 2018. His interceptions was way up. Maybe he can't handle the pressure. He had a lot of hype going into him in the beginning of the year. He was a spotlight QB. The light shined very bright on him, and he didn't do as well. As I mentioned before, the same thing happened with Tua. The same thing happened with Herbert. They had okay 2019s, but their 2018 was better. But he has a lot of talent. I mentioned this today. I saw this today. He has physical arm talent and flash. His throws can make him the next Patrick Mahomes if he has everything right. And we don't know if he does. His decision-making is not great. He overthrows the ball a ton. But again, with the way Mahomes came out of college, you had some of the same issues with him, and he is probably the best player in the league right now. Jordan Love still needs to work into the tempo of any NFL offense. And his judgment isn't great. He already had a marijuana sighting right after he declared for the NFL draft. So I know, Joe, we just talked about that Jordan Love should go into a system that fits himself. However, there's a certain team up north that lost a 20-year starter that probably doesn't want to start the season with Jarrett Stidham at quarterback.
Hey, Sean says he's the man.
I think the Patriots would be a very good fit for them, and he might fall to the Patriots later in this round. Before we go and get final thoughts on the draft, a certain ex-Patriot got traded to Tampa Bay this week. Rob Gronkowski suddenly came out of retirement and was traded to Tampa Bay for a 4th-round pick. Quick thoughts. This is an interesting move and really just shows how Tom Brady is going all in right now. They just got Wirfs to basically be the star offensive tackle for years to come. And now you have another tight end. You got 2 good ones already on this team.
Yeah, I got to say, it's great for the NFL. You have one of not only their best players coming back, and I think his return to the NFL will go off a lot smoother and be a lot more productive than another tight end who recently retired and unretired, Jason Witten. And you know what? I think this will be great for the Patriots. They get to finally move on. They got more out of this trade than I expected they would. You got to give Gronk credit. He took I don't think he intended to come back, but, if he woke up one morning, like he said, and felt like he not only, he still had the love of the game, but he finally felt healthy for the first time in 2+ years. And because he felt healthy, he got the itch and wanted to come back. I don't think anybody should be surprised that and wanting to come back would wind up with him playing with Brady. I think gives Brady right off the bat a guy that he's comfortable with and a guy that will be a safety blanket for him, but also a guy who can kind of be a Brady to the rest of the Tampa Bay dictionary, kind of like a universal translator, which is something that team's going to need because they're going to get a little bit of whiplash, going from playing with Jameis Winston to playing with Tom Brady. Talk about a 180 degrees difference. Joe, you and I were talking about this before we came on the air when we broached this topic. Arians has got to feel like the mad scientist, and he's got, he can't wait to get into the lab and start mixing chemicals together and see what kind of reactions he's going to get.
Yeah, and I think this is in free agent land, this is now the quintessential go for it for the next 2 to 3 year window and forget about the future, because you sign JPP, you sign Tom Brady, you dump off your quarterback that you were building up and teaching and learning. You had a new offensive coordinator in there. You completely scrapped that plan at this point. You bring Gronkowski back. Again, didn't cost you a lot. It's going to cost him enough in money, I'm sure, but it's not going to cost him a lot in draft. You got Brady, who you got to pay. That's going to cost you some money, but again, didn't cost you any draft picks because it's free agency. So you went ahead and you signed all these guys. You got a couple of you got Shaq Barrett. You got a lot of you have a good defensive line. I think you and I had a conversation last year when Daniel Jones came along and everyone had the thing of where's Eli going to go? And I told you, I said, Tampa's the obvious spot because they had everything else. You've got Mike Evans. You've got everything you need. You've got Peyton Barber. You've got running backs. You've got receivers. You've got tight ends. You've got a defense. You can brush the passer. You've got everything down there. What they did have was a guy throwing 30 interceptions, which ruined it all for him. And basically, they didn't even need somebody at the caliber of what Tom Brady could be. No. They only needed somebody who could manage the game, like Peyton Manning when he went to Denver. They could have just used somebody like that who wasn't going to turn the ball over 30 times, and they would have been very, very good. And now this is going to be Tampa for the next 2 or 3 years, and then you're going to have nothing. But it depends on how you handle it from now through then. But they are definitely, if you look at the Super Bowl odds in Vegas, I'm sure it went way down for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers once these moves have been made. And I like it for them. I think they're trying to get the city excited again about this team. And you got a lot of stuff going on down there, and I think it's great. And I think it's good for like you said, good for the NFL. We play them in October. The Giants play them in October. That game will be easy tickets to sell because everybody will want to see that now. It just became a tougher game, and I think it's great. So I think it's a good move.
Yep.
You know what? It's going to be a real big culture shock for the players from last year coming in, going from Jameis Winston's eat that W to a lot of Tom Brady's expletives that we can't say on the air for obvious reasons. I just look at everything that Tampa Bay is doing right now. They go to the retro uniforms and the days of Tony Dungy, Tampa 2, and the Super Bowl 37 winning team. They bring in Gronkowski. You know what? They don't need him to be the Rob Gronkowski of 5 years ago. They just need him to be a safety net for Tom Brady, a guy that that's gonna make that transition a little more easier, a little more comfortable. Gronk has even said that playing for New England wasn't easy. You think about the Belichick and the Patriot way, it might have mentally taken a toll on Gronkowski as much as the physical aspect. He's missed a lot of games in the last few years. And he even missed. He was actually absent for the Patriots Super Bowl run a couple of years ago, when they came back from that big deficit down in Atlanta. So against Atlanta. So I think it's I think for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is a great move for the NFL. So it's a wonderful move. We get deep party goer back in the National Football League, and also, and yes, Rabbi, I'm going to say it. He is a Super Bowl winning champion, and the WWE 24/7 champion. So let's
That's like 2.5 hours ago. Why are we doing this again?
When you go, hey, look, he has a championship ring on, and he's got a championship belt to a weapon on his waist to walk into training camp. He literally went on IG Live and went weight training with the belt on.
Yeah,
I mean, this is Gronk we're talking about. I mean, even if he's not being productive like the Gronk of old, the fact that he's back in the league, the fact that Tampa Bay is going to be a very interesting team in the NFC South. By the way, we get to see Brady against Drew Brees twice this season. You're throwing an extra wild card, which means the Buccaneers don't even have to be division champs to get in. They can be a wild card and be a scary out for any team. It is going to be Tampa Bay is going to be a very, very fun team to watch this season.
Yeah, but the one thing you mentioned it, Jay, and now you mentioned it, Anthony. It's not a guarantee that Tampa Bay is easily going to make the playoffs as a wild card. The NFC is loaded like crazy. The Rams were a 9-7 team out the year after making the Super Bowl, and they would have made it into the previous system. But you still had teams like the Cowboys miss the playoffs, the Bears miss the playoffs. There's no guarantee that Tom Brady is going to go 9-7 and get this team in the second wild card just because he's Tom Brady. There's
no guarantee.
In this team.
No guarantee, but you gotta recognize that at least inside that building, they think their chances just rose.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But as you mentioned, this Gronk's ability predicates on if this team makes the playoffs or not. He could be a safety net, but he wasn't ready to handle a 16-game season over the last few years of his career. What makes you think that's going to happen now?
And by the way, this
85% of the snaps.
I know. I completely understand if he takes 85% of the snaps in the playoffs. That's perfectly fine. What I'm really
I think he can handle a 16-game season this year because he won't have to play 85% of the snaps during this season.
Yeah, but it's also what's going to be very interesting to me is if they keep Cameron Brate and O.J. Howard, they probably shouldn't. O.J. should probably go because he's never really fit with this team, and Brate's a guy who can catch touchdowns. But I'm very interested to see how Gronk really fits with this team. But I think the one intangible is Gronk can teach everybody what Tom Brady has done and what Tom Brady is as a leader. This isn't becoming the Tampa Bay Patriots. This is the Patriot way semi-coming to Tampa Bay without ruining the rest of the team.
And by the way, the Super Bowl is in Tampa this season. We've never had.
All right.
We never. I know.
Stop it. Almost happened in Minnesota years ago.
We never had a whole city have their own team in a Super Bowl before. It's never happened. It almost happened a few years ago.
Not going to happen this year.
You know,
it happened 1 year in Santa Clara because that's where the Niners played anyway. So
right.
Anyway, guys, so we're nearing the end of this show. Before we go, does anybody have any final thoughts?
I like to say this was fun. I know normally under circumstances that we would be on in the studio, but it was great to go live and go back and forth with everyone. Joe, always great to have you on the show, of course. And I like to send a shout out to, our other colleagues. Nisa was able to join us tonight. Steve Ferguson, Sean Roman is also part of this show. Nolan, Pedro as well. I just wanted to say this is a great night. I had a lot of fun. My throat's a little sore. I didn't think I was going to be doing this much talking in 2 hours. But everyone, hey, look, hopefully we can get back to sports in the near future. Everyone stay safe, and you know what? This is fun.
I got to tell you, I said this at the top. The rabbi has been wanting to do something like this for years. I am glad we got the chance to do it. I'm especially glad, Joseph, that we were able to bring you in and you sit in with us for an entire show. I don't know about you, my friend, but I got a little bit of the flashback of what you and I used to do with Dennis and Christine back in the day. So this was a hoot for me to be able to kind of, talk to you for the full length of a show like this. We've been trying to figure out a way to get you in this type of situation for a while because we so enjoy having you on talking football with us. This was a lot of fun. It's unfortunate that the current state of the world is what, put us into this position. But you know what? To be able to do a little over 2 hours, talk NFL draft, have some stuff that went chalk, have some stuff that surprised us, get to talk about a lot more than we normally get a chance to do on our regular half-hour show under normal circumstances. This has been a lot of fun, and I got to say I enjoyed it. Rabbi, well done.
Joe, final thoughts?
Yeah, I echo that what Jay just said. I'm happy to always get on with you guys. You know that, and it's so much nicer to be able to sit here and talk to you than have to find a place at Citi Field to dial in from, or to park somewhere, or to be in different places and have 15 minutes or 10 minutes to talk about what we want to talk about. So I hope you continue to do more of these shows this way, because I think it's a lot more enjoyable, again, for the little bit more back and forth than usual. I know with the studio you have to stay a little bit more structured and keep it. I think this is nice to be able to raise your hand and get in there and give you 2 cents. And I've always enjoyed talking to you, Jay, and I've always enjoyed meeting everybody else and sharing all of our stuff. And like I said, back in the old days, this is kind of the same. This technology was basically made by them, and now it's morphed into everything that we do these days. So it's always been a lot of fun, and I appreciate it. I'm always happy to be included.
And before we go, let me just realize, and to bring everything back into focus, the Cowboys who just picked at 17, Jerry Jones just used a landline. Yes, a landline to make his pick.
What did I say?
To pick CeeDee Lamb to finally circle the drain for the rest of this show. So that happened. Anyway, 2.5 hours we have flown by to the conclusion. For Jay Kaplan, Anthony Strait, and Joe Tufaro, thank you, sir, for joining us tonight. My name is Stephen Rabinowitz. We are on Twitter @OnTheSportsLines, Facebook at facebook.com/OnTheSportsLines, and we're on YouTube where you can see all of this talk in a few days or even just tomorrow at youtube.com/OnTheSportsLines. Good night, everybody.
Good night.